Christmas Eve at my childhood home in Connecticut. Walking through the living room after helping Mom with dinner preparations, I freeze. Above the fireplace hangs a new family portrait. My parents, my younger sister Madison, my older brother Ryan, their spouses, their children. Everyone except me. Not blurred or hidden. Deliberately cropped out. The frame cuts precisely where I should be standing. My throat tightens. 28 years of being their daughter, and they erased me like I never existed. No one says a word about it during dinner. The grandfather clock in the corner marked 7:30 as we gathered around the dining table. The same mahogany table where I'd eaten thousands of meals, celebrated countless birthdays, and shared 28 years of family memories. Now I sat in my designated chair, the one between Madison and the china cabinet, feeling like a ghost haunting my own life. Mom bustled around with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd hosted 43 Christmas Eve dinners in this house. Her movements were precise, deliberate, and somehow managed to navigate around me without acknowledgement. She placed the glazed ham at Dad's end of the table, the honey-baked tradition he'd carved with the same ceremonial importance since I was 5 years old. Madison sparkled in her emerald dress, left hand strategically positioned to catch the light from the chandelier. Her engagement ring, a 2-carat princess cut that her boyfriend Jeremy had presented 3 weeks ago, demanded attention with every gesture. Jeremy's family owns that vineyard in Napa Valley. She gushed to our cousin Patricia, who'd arrived an hour ago with her husband and twin boys. We're thinking of having the wedding there next fall. 200 guests, maybe 250. Mom clasped her hands together, her face illuminating with the kind of joy I hadn't seen directed at me in months. Patricia, you should see the dress designs Madison's been considering. We spent all last Tuesday at Kleinfeld's, and the consultant said she'd never seen someone look so stunning in their Penina Tournai collection. Ryan lounged in his chair with the confidence of someone who'd never questioned his place in the world. His wife Emma sat beside him quietly, cutting their daughter Sophia's ham into bite-sized pieces. At 32, Ryan had achieved everything our parents valued: the Harvard MBA, the investment firm partnership, the colonial house in Westport, and most importantly, the 2 grandchildren who carried on the family name. The Singapore expansion is moving faster than projected, Ryan announced, accepting the green bean casserole from Dad. Board approved my proposal last Monday. Looks like I'll be heading up the entire Asian markets division by spring. Dad's chest expanded with pride. That's my boy. I knew Thornton Investments would recognize your potential. Remember when you were 10 and set up that lemonade empire across 3 neighborhoods, born entrepreneur? I reached for the casserole dish as it made its way around the table. My fingers had barely grazed the ceramic when Mom's hand swooped in, intercepting my movement with surgical precision. Without meeting my eyes, she passed it directly to Madison, who accepted it while continuing her wedding venue monologue. The dismissal stung more than any harsh word could have. At least anger acknowledged existence. This calculated invisibility cut deeper, suggesting I'd become an inconvenience to be managed rather than a daughter to be loved. Jeremy's younger brother Marcus asked about the cranberry sauce. I lifted the crystal bowl sitting directly in front of me, extending it toward him. He looked through me, past me, around me, before asking Ryan if he could pass the cranberries. Ryan reached across the entire table, nearly knocking over Emma's wine glass, to hand Marcus the exact bowl I'd been holding. The conversation flowed around me like water around a river stone. They discussed the new country club membership rates, debated whether the Johnsons' holiday party had been better last year, and planned a February ski trip to Aspen that somehow required coordination between everyone except me. We'll need 3 suites, Emma calculated aloud. 1 for Richard and Helen, 1 for us with Sophia and the baby, and 1 for Madison and Jeremy. Don't forget Mom and Dad, Madison added. They'll want their own space. 5 suites. Every family member accounted for except the daughter sitting at the table chewing ham that tasted like sawdust while pretending not to notice my exclusion from yet another family gathering. Tyler, my 6-year-old nephew, provided the evening's only genuine interaction. He'd been watching me throughout dinner with the uncomplicated curiosity children possessed before adults taught them to look away. His dark hair stuck up in defiant cowlicks, despite Emma's attempts to tame it with gel, and his Christmas sweater featured a T-Rex wearing a Santa hat. "Aunt Lindsay," he piped up during a lull in Madison's description of wedding flower arrangements. His clear voice cut through the adult chatter like a bell. "How come you're not in the new picture?" The table froze. Forks suspended midway to mouths, wine glasses halted at lips. Even baby Charlotte seemed to pause her babbling as 13 pairs of eyes found anywhere to look except at me or Tyler. "What picture, sweetheart?" I kept my voice gentle, though my pulse hammered in my throat. Tyler pointed toward the living room with his fork sending a green bean flying onto the cream tablecloth. "The big one over the fireplace. Mommy and Daddy are in it, and Grandma and Grandpa and Aunt Madison and Uncle Jeremy, but you're not there. Did you have to work?" Mom's recovery was swift and practiced. "Tyler, honey, would you like to open one present early? I think Santa might have left something special under the tree just for good boys who eat all their vegetables." "Really?" Tyler's attention shifted instantly, the question forgotten in the promise of early gift gratification. "Can I pick which one?" "Just one small one," Emma added quickly, shooting a grateful look at Mom. "And finish your ham first." Dad pushed back from the table abruptly, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "I'll clear some of these plates. Make room for dessert." He began collecting dishes with uncharacteristic helpfulness, gathering plates that still held half-finished portions of food. Ryan jumped up to assist, suddenly concerned with kitchen duties he'd ignored for 32 years. "Let me help with those, Dad. Emma, why don't you take Tyler to pick out that present?" The orchestrated chaos successfully diverted attention from Tyler's innocent question, but the damage was done. The careful facade cracked just enough to reveal the deliberate nature of their performance. This wasn't thoughtless oversight or benign neglect. This was calculated erasure, and Tyler had almost exposed it. Patricia's husband, Derek, attempted to restart conversation, asking about the renovations to the guest bathroom. Mom latched onto the topic with desperate enthusiasm, describing tile patterns and fixture choices with the kind of detail typically reserved for doctoral dissertations. I pushed green beans around my plate, creating small patterns in the cranberry sauce, while the family rebuilt their wall of normalcy brick by brick. Madison resumed her wedding planning monologue. Ryan returned to discussing quarterly projections. Mom distributed dessert plates with mathematical precision that kept her from acknowledging my existence. But something had shifted. The mask had slipped, and we all knew it. Tyler's question hung in the air like incense, invisible but undeniably present. "How come you're not in the new picture?" 6 words from a child that exposed months of careful orchestration. As Mom brought out her famous chocolate trifle, I caught Dad glancing at the living room doorway. Just for a second, his eyes flickered toward the portrait, then back to his dessert plate. In that momentary lapse, I saw something that might have been guilt or regret or simply discomfort at the complexity of maintaining this charade. But the moment passed. The performance resumed, and I remained at the table, but not a bit present, but erased their daughter, who'd been edited out of the family portrait and apparently out of their lives. The bedroom door clicked shut behind me with a soft finality that echoed in my chest. My childhood sanctuary looked the same at first glance. Lavender walls I'd chosen at 13, the white furniture set Dad assembled while grumbling about Swedish instruction manuals, the window seat where I'd spent countless hours reading. But something felt different. Like looking at a familiar photograph where someone had subtly altered the shadows. I kicked off my heels and padded across the carpet in stockings drawn to the built-in shelves flanking the window. The emptiness hit me first. Where my high school soccer trophies once stood in proud formation, only dust outlines remained. 3 years of varsity championships, the MVP award from senior year, the scholar athlete recognition, all vanished. The shelf that had sagged slightly under their weight now held a sparse collection of generic ceramic birds that could have come from any department store, clearance rack. My fingers traced the clean rectangles in the dust. These weren't recently removed. The dust patterns had settled and resettled, creating ghost images of achievements that someone had decided no longer deserved display. I sneezed from the disturbed particles and noticed even that sound seemed to disappear too quickly, absorbed by a room that was learning to forget me. The wall opposite my bed had once been a shrine to academic success. Certificates of merit, honor roll commemorations, the acceptance letter from Johns Hopkins I'd framed in celebration, a decade of scholarly achievements that proved I was more than just the middle child. Now 3 landscape prints hung in their place. Generic scenes of beaches and mountains, the kind of mass-produced art you'd find in a budget hotel room. They weren't even level. I crossed to examine them closer. The nail holes from my awards were still visible, hastily spackled, but not sanded smooth. Someone had done this in a hurry, or perhaps simply hadn't cared enough to do it properly. The realization that they'd literally plastered over the holes left by my accomplishments felt like a metaphor too obvious to ignore. The hallway gallery told a similar story. The Johnson family photo timeline, Mom's pride and joy, stretched 20 feet along the corridor, connecting the bedrooms. I'd walked past it thousands of times, watching our family evolution from parents with babies to grandparents with grandchildren. Now I moved slowly, examining each frame with detective-like scrutiny. The photo from Ryan's Harvard graduation, I wasn't there, which was impossible because I'd driven up from Baltimore specifically for the ceremony, missing my own finals review to attend. The vacation photo from Hilton Head, my figure had been seamlessly removed from the beach scene, leaving Madison and Ryan building a sandcastle that I knew I'd helped design. Christmas morning from 2018 showed unopened presents where I'd been sitting, my pajama-clad form replaced with more gifts under the tree. Professional work. Not someone's clumsy attempt with a photo app, but actual professional editing that cost money and required effort. They'd invested time and resources into erasing me from our visual history. My stomach churned as I continued down the hall. Some photos remained untouched, ones where I appeared alone or could be cropped without destroying the composition. But every group shot every family milestone, every celebration where my presence would be conspicuous by its absence, had been carefully sanitized. The guest bathroom offered another revelation. Mom kept a rotating display of family photos on the small shelf above the towels, updating them seasonally. I found myself there among the current selection, but relegated to the back row, hidden behind larger frames, featuring Madison's engagement photos and Sophia's first birthday party. When I moved the front photos aside, I discovered my college graduation portrait, my promotion celebration at Hartford Hospital, even the photo from my 25th birthday dinner at their house. All present but purposefully obscured, like keeping someone's number in your phone but never intending to call. Back in my room, I sat heavily on the bed, processing the calculated nature of this erasure. The digital clock on my nightstand glowed 10:47. Downstairs, I could hear the muffled sounds of the family enjoying dessert and coffee, their laughter filtering through the floorboards. Tyler's excited voice rose above the others. He must have opened his early present. I pulled open my old desk drawer, seeking anything that remained unchanged. The drawer stuck slightly, the wood swollen from decades of Connecticut humidity. Inside, the familiar chaos of teenage keepsakes greeted me: dried corsages from school dances, ticket stubs from concerts, a friendship bracelet Sarah made at summer camp. Normal archaeological layers of a life lived. But there, tucked beneath my junior year yearbook, was something that didn't belong. A manila folder, crisp and new among the aged memories. My name written across the tab in Mom's precise handwriting, Lindsay Documentation. My hands trembled slightly as I extracted the folder. Inside, paper clipped together with Mom's characteristic organizational fervor, were receipts. Not just any receipts, invoices from Photo Memories, plus a professional photo editing service. The dates jumped out at me: September 15th, September 22nd, October 3rd. A systematic campaign conducted over weeks. The itemized services made my chest tighten. Complex person removal, 12 images. Background reconstruction, 8 images. Shadow and reflection elimination, 15 images. Full portrait modification, 1 large format. The costs were staggering. $75 per complex edit, $150 for the large portrait. The final total circled in red pen, $1,200. $1,200 to erase a daughter from family history. I sank onto the floor, back against the bed receipt spreading across my lap. The clinical language of the invoices, subject extraction, seamless blend, artifact removal, described my elimination with the same detachment you'd use for removing a stain from upholstery. A handwritten note was stapled to the final receipt. Rush job completed as requested. All original files destroyed per your instructions. No backup copies retained. They'd paid extra to ensure no evidence remained of my original presence. This wasn't a moment of anger or a reversible decision. This was thorough, deliberate, and intended to be permanent. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "How's Christmas Eve going? Save me some of your mom's trifle." I almost laughed at the absurdity. How could I explain that not only was I not getting any trifle, but I'd been systematically removed from 2 decades of family photos that my parents had paid the equivalent of a mortgage payment to pretend I'd never existed? Another sound from downstairs, Patricia's twins running through the house, their parents calling after them to be careful. The normal chaos of a family gathering, one I was supposedly part of but had been edited out of like a mistake in post-production. I stood slowly, my reflection catching in the mirror over my dresser. Still there, still real, despite their best efforts to delete me. The woman looking back had her mother's eyes and her father's stubborn chin, genetic evidence that couldn't be photoshopped away no matter how much they paid. But as I gathered the receipts and closed the folder, I realized this discovery was just the beginning. If they'd gone to these lengths to remove me from photos, what else had they done? What other erasures were waiting to be discovered? The house settling around me made small creaking sounds, the old bones of a structure that had sheltered 4 decades of family life. Somewhere in these walls were the pencil marks tracking my height, the dent from when I'd practiced field hockey in the hallway, the window screen I'd loosened for late-night escapes, physical evidence of a childhood they couldn't invoice away. But they were trying. One receipt at a time, one photo at a time, they were attempting to revise history into a version where their middle daughter simply didn't exist. The question that burned in my throat was simple: why? What had I done that warranted this complete erasure? What transgression justified spending $1,200 to remove me from family memories? Tomorrow was Christmas. Downstairs, my family continued their celebration, their laughter bright and uncomplicated by the knowledge of what they'd done. And upstairs, alone in a room being slowly stripped of my presence, I held the receipts that proved their betrayal wasn't just emotional, but financial, not just personal, but professional. They hadn't just broken my heart, they'd paid someone to help them do it. My phone screen illuminated the darkness of my childhood bedroom as I typed out a message to Sarah. 11:23 on Christmas Eve. Late, but Sarah never slept before midnight. My thumbs moved quickly across the screen. "Hey, something weird is happening with my family. Can you talk?" Her response came within seconds, always calling now. I declined the call, typing instead, "Can't talk out loud, they'll hear. But I need to know if you've noticed anything strange lately. About my family, talking about me." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. Sarah's message, when it finally came, made my blood run cold. "Lindsay, I've been wanting to ask you about Seattle for months, but didn't want to pry. How's the new job going?" Seattle. I stared at the screen, rereading her words 3 times. "Sarah, what are you talking about? I live in Hartford. Have for 3 years. What Seattle job?" A long pause. Then, "Your mom told my mom at the grocery store in October that you took a position with a tech company in Seattle. Said you needed a fresh start and space to figure things out. She seemed really proud, but also sad you were so far away." My fingers shook as I typed, "I work at Hartford Hospital, same job for 3 years. I live 40 minutes away. I've never even been to Seattle." Sarah's reply came in rapid bursts. "What? Are you serious right now? Your mom gave this whole speech about supporting your independence. She said you were too busy to visit, but video called weekly. Lindsay, what is happening? I switched to our message thread and scrolled up, finding photos from just last month. Me at my Hartford apartment, me at the hospital's Halloween party, me getting coffee at our usual spot on Farmington Avenue. I screenshotted everything and sent them to Sarah. "Oh my God," she wrote. "These are all dated from when you were supposedly in Seattle. Why would your mom lie about this?" Before I could respond, another message appeared. "Wait, there's more. Remember Jessica from high school? She works at your mom's dentist office now. She told me your mom mentioned you were studying abroad, something about a fellowship in London." London, Seattle. The lies multiplied like cells dividing, each one creating its own alternate reality, where I existed somewhere else, anywhere else but here. "I need you to tell me everything," I typed. "Every single thing you've heard about me from my family in the last few months." Sarah's information came in a flood. My mom had told the hairdresser I was dealing with a difficult breakup and needed space. My dad had informed his golf buddies I was on a meditation retreat in Arizona. Madison had posted on social media about missing her sister who was following her dreams across the country. Each lie more elaborate than the last, each one carefully crafted to explain my absence from family events no one had bothered to invite me to. "There's something else," Sarah typed after a pause. "Your family had a huge Thanksgiving dinner, like extended family from all over. Jessica saw the photos on your mom's Facebook. You weren't there, but the caption said, 'So grateful to have the whole family together.' People commented asking about you, but your mom just heart-reacted their comments without responding. I minimized our conversation and opened Facebook, navigating to mom's profile. I rarely checked social media, finding the performance of perfect lives exhausting. But there it was, a photo album titled Thanksgiving Blessings 2024. 67 photos of aunts, uncles, cousins, and family friends gathered in our dining room around our table in front of our fireplace. The same rooms I'd occupied just hours ago, filled with people I hadn't seen in months. The comments made my stomach turn. "Where's Lindsay missing your middle child? Tell Lindsay we missed her. Hope Lindsay could join by video at least." Each comment met with mom's heart reaction and nothing more. Silent acknowledgement that deflected without answering. I screenshotted everything and returned to Sarah. "I need more information. Can you ask around carefully? I need to know what other stories they're telling." While Sarah worked her network, I texted my Aunt Jennifer, Dad's younger sister. She lived in Boston and had always been the family rebel, the one who asked uncomfortable questions at holiday dinners and refused to pretend problems didn't exist. "Aunt Jen, this is random, but have you heard from my parents lately? About me specifically?" Her reply took longer, but when it came, it confirmed my worst fears. "Sweetheart, your mother told me 3 months ago that you were going through something and needed space from the family. She asked me not to reach out because you were in a fragile state and contact might set back your progress. I've been worried sick but wanted to respect your boundaries. Are you okay?" I called her immediately, not caring who might overhear. She answered on the first ring. "Lindsay, oh thank God, I've been so worried." "Aunt Jen." I whispered, my voice cracking. "I'm fine, I've been fine. I live 40 minutes away and work at the same hospital I've been at for years. I have no idea what Mom told you, but none of it is true." Silence on her end, then a sharp intake of breath. That manipulative witch. I knew something felt wrong. She was too calm about you supposedly needing intensive therapy, too prepared with explanations. Therapy. She told you I was in therapy. Inpatient treatment, she implied, for burnout and anxiety. Said you'd cut contact with everyone while you worked through it. But here's the thing. She slipped up once. Mentioned you'd sent money for your father's medication last month. I asked how you managed that with no contact, and she changed the subject so fast I got whiplash. My mind raced. They were keeping my financial support while telling everyone I'd abandoned the family, taking my money while erasing my presence. "There's more," Aunt Jennifer continued. "I ran into your grandmother at the market last month. She thinks you're studying international business in Prague. Apparently, you send her postcards every week. I don't send postcards. I call her every Sunday. She hasn't mentioned any calls, just postcards with generic messages about enjoying your studies. Someone was intercepting my calls to grandmother. Someone was creating fake postcards. The elaborateness of the deception made my skin crawl. Sarah's messages started flooding in with her reconnaissance. My cousin Tom had been told I joined the Peace Corps. The neighbors thought I'd moved for a promotion to California. My high school track coach heard I was training for marathons in Colorado. The church secretary was informed I'd transferred my membership to a congregation in Dallas. Each person had received a different story carefully tailored to be believable, but distant enough to prevent follow-up questions. A web of lies so complex that untangling one thread would leave dozens more intact. Lindsay. Aunt Jennifer's voice cut through my spiral. I'm documenting everything, every conversation, every date, every detail. Something is very wrong here, and I think we both know this isn't about you needing space. They had me removed from all the family photos, I whispered. Paid over $1,000 to have me professionally edited out. Jesus Christ. Aunt Jennifer rarely swore, saving profanity for maximum impact. This is beyond dysfunction. This is systematic. When did it start? I thought back, piecing together the timeline. 3 months ago, right after I refused to invest in Madison's boyfriend's startup. How much did they want? $50,000, my entire savings, for some app that helps people find parking spaces. And when you said no, Mom accused me of not understanding family loyalty, said I was selfish for hoarding money while Madison tried to build a future. Meanwhile, you've been paying your father's medication costs for how long? 2 years, $300 a month minimum. And Ryan invested in this startup, double what they asked from me. The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. I'd refused to fund their chosen narrative of Madison's perfect life with her perfect boyfriend and his perfect business idea. So they'd written me out of the story entirely. I'm driving down tomorrow, Aunt Jennifer declared. They don't get to do this. Not to you, not to anyone. It's Christmas. Exactly. And they're going to have to look me in the eye and explain why they've been lying to the entire extended family about my niece's whereabouts while she sits at their dinner table like a ghost. After we hung up, I sat in the darkness phone, warm in my hands from the constant use. The house had gone quiet, family members retreating to their assigned rooms. In a few hours, they'd wake for Christmas morning, perform their gift exchanges, and continue pretending I didn't exist. But now I knew the extent of their deception. It wasn't just photos and portraits. They'd created an entire alternate universe where I was always somewhere else, living a dozen different lives in a dozen different cities, too busy or troubled or distant to be present. The irony wasn't lost on me. They'd spent more effort maintaining these lies than it would have taken to simply include me. The energy required to remember which story they'd told, which person to intercept calls and fake postcards to edit photos and coordinate deceptions, it must be exhausting. And for what? Because I wouldn't risk my financial future on Madison's boyfriend's sure-to-fail startup. Because I'd chosen fiscal responsibility over their version of family loyalty. My phone buzzed with one final text from Sarah. Lindsay, there's one more thing. I overheard my mom on the phone with yours yesterday. Your mom said something about, once the papers are finalized, everything will be cleaner. What papers is she talking about? I stared at the message, a new chill running through me. What papers? What else were they planning to finalize? Tomorrow was Christmas, but it was also the beginning of my investigation into just how far my family had gone to erase me from their lives. And more importantly, why they thought they could get away with it. Sleep eluded me entirely. I lay in my childhood bed staring at the glow in the dark stars I'd stuck to the ceiling in 6th grade, now faded to barely visible pale green dots. My mind churned through every interaction from the past 3 months, searching for the moment everything changed. 3:47 a.m. The house creaked with winter cold and settling wood. I grabbed my laptop from my overnight bag and created a timeline needing to see the pattern laid out clearly. September 15th, the date on the first photo editing receipt. What had happened in mid-September, I opened my phone calendar and scrolled back. September 14th, dinner at my parents' house. Madison had brought Jeremy flush with excitement about his startup idea. I remembered the evening with crystal clarity now. It's revolutionary. Jeremy had insisted over Mom's pot roast, his eyes bright with entrepreneurial fever. Think about how much time people waste looking for parking. ParkSpot will eliminate that entirely. We just need initial investors to believe in the vision. Mom had beamed at him like he'd announced a cure for cancer. Jeremy, that's brilliant. Lindsay, isn't this exactly the kind of innovation hospitals need? Think of all the patients who struggle to find parking for appointments. The pitch had continued through dessert. Market projections sketched on napkins, user interface mock-ups passed around like religious artifacts, and then the ask $50,000 for a 20% stake in a company that existed only in Jeremy's imagination and a half-built app that crashed every time they demonstrated it. I appreciate the opportunity, I'd said carefully, but I can't invest that kind of money in a startup. That's my entire emergency fund and down payment savings combined. The temperature in the room had dropped 10 degrees. Madison's face flushed red. Jeremy's smile tightened into something resembling a grimace. But it was Mom's reaction that haunted me now. The way her expression shifted from warm encouragement to cold assessment, like she was recalculating my value in real time. Family supports family, she'd said quietly. When Ryan needed help with his gambling debts, you didn't hesitate. That was different. He was in trouble. This is a business investment. Madison's future is in trouble if she can't support her partner's dreams. What kind of sister refuses to help with that? The argument that followed had been quiet but vicious. Dad had joined Mom's side, suggesting I didn't understand business because I just worked at a hospital. Ryan had sat silent, knowing I'd covered $40,000 in gambling debts he'd hidden from everyone else. Madison had cried, actually cried, claiming I was jealous of her happiness. I'd left that night thinking the tension would blow over. Family disagreements always did. We'd fought before about money, politics, life choices, but we always found our way back to center. Except this time we hadn't. I continued building my timeline. September 20th. Madison's birthday dinner. I'd shown up with her favorite cake from the bakery across town, a tradition I'd maintained for 5 years. They'd already eaten dessert. Oh, we thought you were working. Mom had said, not meeting my eyes. The cake had sat untouched on the counter while they discussed plans I hadn't been included in. September 28th. Ryan's daughter's soccer game. I'd arrived to find my usual spot on the bleachers occupied the family grouped together in a way that left no natural space for me. Lindsay's here, Tyler had announced happily. The adults had shifted uncomfortably but made no effort to include me in their cluster. October 5th. Dad's doctor appointment. I'd taken time off work to drive him something I'd done monthly since his heart issues began. Mom had intercepted me in the parking lot. We've made other arrangements, she'd said. Ryan's taking him now. But Ryan's car wasn't in the lot, and Dad waited alone in the lobby for 20 minutes before I insisted on taking him anyway. The pattern was clear. The financial refusal had triggered something, but it wasn't really about the money. It was about breaking rank, refusing to follow the script, choosing my financial security over their narrative of family unity. I pulled up my bank statements, needing to verify something that had been nagging at me. There, deposits returned one after another. The checks I'd written for Dad's medications sent back uncashed. But when I checked the dates against my calendar, they aligned with purchases Mom had made. She'd returned my checks while buying the medications herself, creating a paper trail that suggested I'd stopped helping. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. At 4:12 a.m., it could only be bad news or wrong number. I opened it cautiously. Hi, Lindsay, this is Marcus Lynn from The Current. Strange question, but did your family submit an obituary for you? We have one pending publication but wanted to verify since you're clearly active on social media. Please call me ASAP. My blood turned to ice. An obituary, I called the number, immediately not caring about the hour. Marcus Lynn. This is Lindsay Johnson. You just texted about an obituary. Ms. Johnson, thank God. We've had some strange submissions before, but this seemed particularly suspicious. Someone submitted a death notice for you dated next week, claiming you passed away unexpectedly while traveling abroad. I'm very much alive. Who submitted it? The submission came from a Madison Johnson listed as your sister, paid for a full memorial spread with photos and everything. We require verification for all obituaries, which is why I reached out. This is actually the second submission. The first was rejected last month for lack of documentation. They'd tried twice. My family had tried to officially declare me dead in the newspaper. The symbolism was staggering. Not content with erasing me from photos and lying about my whereabouts, they wanted to literally announce my death to the community. Please don't run that obituary. I managed through my shock. And can you send me copies of everything submitted? Already emailed to the address on file. Ms. Johnson, I have to ask, do you feel safe? This kind of thing usually indicates serious family dysfunction or worse. Did I feel safe? I was sitting in my childhood bedroom in my parents' house, surrounded by people who'd paid to have me erased from photos and were now trying to publish my death announcement. Safe wasn't the word I'd use. I'm handling it, I told him. Thank you for checking. After we hung up, I opened my email. The obituary draft made me nauseous. They'd written about my adventurous spirit, taking me far from home, my independent nature that kept me distant from family, my unexpected passing while pursuing dreams abroad. They'd included photos, ones where I appeared alone, carefully selected to avoid showing me with any family members. The memorial service was scheduled for next Friday. They were planning to hold a funeral for their living daughter. I thought about Tyler asking why I wasn't in the portrait, about the extended family gathering for Thanksgiving without me, about the different cities they'd scattered me across in their lies. It all led to this, a final erasure that would explain my permanent absence. But why the $50,000 refusal had started it, but this escalation suggested something deeper. I opened my laptop again and started searching, using skills learned from years of medical research to investigate my own family. Ryan's social media revealed the truth about ParkSpot. Post after post from Jeremy about pivoting to meet market demands and exploring new funding opportunities. Startups speak for failure. The app had launched and died within 6 weeks. Ryan's $100,000 investment had vanished into nothing. They needed someone to blame, someone who'd refused to join their failed venture whose financial prudence now looked like wisdom while their choices looked like folly. I'd become the scapegoat for a bad business decision that had cost Ryan his children's college funds and Jeremy his credibility. Rather than admit their mistake, they'd chosen to erase the reminder of their failure. Me. My phone showed 4:58 a.m. Soon the house would wake for Christmas morning. Stockings would be opened, gifts exchanged, breakfast prepared, all while they finalized plans for my funeral. I pulled out a legal pad and started writing. Not the emotional letter I wanted to write full of hurt and accusations. Instead, a detailed timeline of their deception. Every lie told, every check returned, every photo edited. The obituary attempts would be the centerpiece. Hard to explain away trying to declare your living daughter dead. They'd started this war with a $1,000 photo editing bill. They'd escalated it with elaborate lies and returned checks. They'd tried to end it with an obituary. But I was still here, still breathing, still their daughter despite their best efforts to pretend otherwise. And tomorrow, today technically, I would hand them an envelope that would change everything. Because while they'd been busy erasing me from their lives, I'd been documenting every step of their campaign. The pattern was clear, the evidence overwhelming, the next move was mine. Christmas morning was about to become very interesting. 7:30 a.m. arrived with the sound of movement downstairs. Coffee brewing cabinets opening and closing, the familiar rhythm of Mom preparing Christmas morning breakfast. I'd showered and dressed carefully, professional slacks and a cashmere sweater that said successful adult daughter rather than family disappointment. My overnight bag was already packed, sitting by the door like an escape pod. I descended the stairs to find the living room transformed into a gift-wrapping explosion. Presents spilled from beneath the tree in coordinated paper, silver and gold for the adults, bright reds and greens for the children. The stockings hung in their traditional order: Dad, Mom, Ryan, Madison. The empty hook where mine should have hung seemed to grow larger the longer I stared at it. "Morning," I said to the room at large. Dad glanced up from his newspaper, gave a brief nod, then returned to the sports section. Mom bustled past carrying a tray of cinnamon rolls, her Christmas apron proclaiming Grandma's Kitchen in embroidered letters. She moved around me like I was furniture. Madison emerged from the kitchen carrying orange juice, her silk pajamas, and perfectly styled hair, making her look like a Christmas morning stock photo. "Jeremy's on his way," she announced. He had to stop by his parents first. Ryan and Emma appeared with the children, Sophia racing toward the tree, while Tyler rubbed sleep from his eyes. Emma carried baby Charlotte, who gurgled happily in her Christmas onesie. The perfect family tableau missing only one component: acknowledgement that I existed. I took my usual seat on the love seat, holding the gift bags I'd brought. They sat beside me like evidence at a trial wrapped in paper I'd chosen specifically. Silver with snowflakes, the same pattern Mom used for special presents. Inside were thoughtful gifts selected months ago before I knew I was being systematically erased. A first edition Virginia Woolf for Mom, who collected rare books. The vintage Swiss Army watch Dad had admired in an antique shop window. A spa weekend voucher for Madison. Rare bourbon for Ryan. Gifts for a family that was attempting to declare me dead. "Present time," Mom announced with forced cheer. She settled into her director's chair. Yes, she had a specific chair for gift distribution, and began calling out names. "This one's for Sophia from Santa. Tyler, here's yours from Grandpa. Emma, this lovely box is from Madison." The performance unfolded with practiced precision. Each gift opened with appropriate exclamations, photos taken at optimal moments, thank yous exchanged with huggers and kisses. My gifts sat untouched beside me, invisible as their giver. Tyler provided the first crack in the facade. "What about Aunt Lindsay's presents?" He pointed to my gift bags with the directness only children possess. "She brought lots of them." Mom's smile never wavered. "We'll handle those later, sweetheart. Look, here's another one for you." But Tyler, bless his persistent heart, wasn't so easily distracted. He marched over to my love seat and picked up the bag with his name on it. "This one says Tyler. That's me. Can I open it, Aunt Lindsay?" "Of course, buddy." I helped him with the ribbon, ignoring the laser stares from around the room. Inside was a build-your-own robot kit I'd selected, knowing his love for both construction and technology. His eyes widened as he examined the components. "This is awesome, Mom. Look, it has real circuits and everything." Emma's face cycled through several emotions before settling on strained politeness. "That's very nice. What do we say, Tyler?" "Thank you, Aunt Lindsay." He threw his arms around me in an enthusiastic hug that felt like the first genuine warmth I'd experienced in months. "Will you help me build it?" Later, Ryan interjected. "Aunt Lindsay is probably leaving soon." "But she just got here yesterday," Tyler protested. "And she hasn't opened any presents. How come there's nothing under the tree for her?" The question hung in the air like an accusation. Madison fidgeted with her engagement ring. Mom suddenly needed to check on something in the kitchen. Dad disappeared behind his newspaper fortress. Even baby Charlotte seemed to sense the tension, her happy gurgling replaced by uncertain whimpers. "I don't need presents," I said gently to Tyler. "Seeing you enjoy yours is gift enough." It was the kind of gracious deflection they should have appreciated, but Tyler wasn't finished. "But everyone gets presents at Christmas. It's the rule. Even Charlotte got presents, and she's just a baby." From the kitchen doorway, Mom's voice carried false brightness. "Who wants special Christmas morning French toast?" The subject change worked on the younger generation, sending them racing toward the dining room. But the damage was done. Tyler's innocent observations had highlighted the absurdity of their charade. I was present but giftless, acknowledged by a 6-year-old but invisible to adults, bringing presents but receiving nothing in return. Madison opened my gift to her in my absence, something I only noticed when I passed the dining room and saw her examining the spa voucher. She quickly shoved it into her pajama pocket when she caught my eye, as if accepting my gift, while ignoring my existence wasn't a contradiction worth examining. Breakfast became another exercise in complicated logistics. 13 place settings at the extended dining table, arranged to suggest completeness while excluding one person. I stood holding my coffee mug, surveying the careful choreography. "Lindsay, there's a TV tray in the hall closet," Mom suggested without looking up from her place-setting adjustments. "You could set up in the living room if you're hungry." A TV tray on Christmas morning, while the family gathered around the formal dining table I'd eaten at for 28 years. The suggestion was so insulting that even Ryan shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "I'll stand, thanks." I leaned against the doorframe, sipping coffee while watching them navigate around the elephant in the room. Jeremy arrived just as they were sitting down, apologizing for his lateness with charm that didn't quite reach his eyes. He kissed Madison's cheek and took the seat that would have been mine in any normal year. "Great spread, Helen," he complimented Mom. "You've outdone yourself." "Oh, Jeremy, your family now." Mom beamed at her future son-in-law while her actual daughter stood 6 feet away like a specter at the feast. "I made your favorite. Apple cinnamon French toast." My favorite. She'd made my favorite breakfast for the man whose failed business venture had started this entire catastrophe. The irony was sharp enough to cut. Patricia and Derek arrived with the twins as breakfast concluded, adding to the chaos. More greetings, more gifts, more careful navigation around my presence. Patricia hugged everyone except me, not from malice, but from uncertainty, picking up on the family's cues without understanding them. I helped clear plates, moving through the kitchen with the efficiency of someone who'd performed these tasks countless times. Mom worked beside me in silence, our movements a practiced dance of avoidance. She washed, I dried, neither acknowledging the strange intimacy of shared chores amidst emotional warfare. "The Roberts are stopping by this afternoon," she mentioned to the air above my left shoulder. "And the Hendersons. Madison wants to show off her ring to everyone." An announcement disguised as small talk. More people would arrive to witness my erasure, to see the family portrait missing one face, to participate unknowingly in the charade. I wondered if they'd notice my absence from the photos, or if, like everything else, it would be explained away with lies about Seattle and London and wherever else they'd scattered me in their fiction. Tyler found me in the kitchen as I finished the dishes. He carried the robot kit instructions already unfolded and studied with the intensity of a scholar. "Aunt Lindsay, it says we need a Phillips head screwdriver. Do you have one? Let's check the garage." I suggested, grateful for the excuse to escape. We spent the next hour assembling tiny parts while the house filled with extended family and friends. Tyler chattered about school and friends and his plans to become either a robot designer or a dinosaur hunter, possibly both. Normal aunt-nephew bonding that felt revolutionary in its simplicity. "Why don't you come to my soccer games anymore?" he asked, suddenly tiny fingers working to connect circuit boards. "I scored 3 goals last month." Another innocent question that cut deep. "I didn't know about them, buddy. Nobody told me when they were." "But Mom sends the schedule to everyone." His brow furrowed with confusion. "She makes a big email list. All the grandparents and aunts and uncles get it. All except one, apparently. Add it to the list of small erasures, school plays uninvited to soccer games, unannounced birthday parties that happened without me. Death by 1,000 exclusions." We finished the robot's basic assembly just as Mom called everyone for gift exchange round 2, with the extended family. I helped Tyler clean up our workspace, packing the remaining components carefully. "Thank you for helping me," he said solemnly. "And thank you for my present. It's my favorite one." "You're very welcome." He paused at the garage door, looking back with those perceptive eyes. "Aunt Lindsay, are you sad?" The question caught me off guard. Why do you ask? Because everyone's acting weird and you look like Mom does when she's pretending not to cry. And there's no presents for you and your stocking isn't hung up and you're not in the picture. His words tumbled out in a rush of 6-year-old concern. Did you do something bad? No, buddy. Sometimes families get complicated, but it's not your worry, okay? You just enjoy your Christmas. He hugged me again, fierce and protective. I love you, Aunt Lindsay. Even if you're not in the picture, you're still my aunt. Even if you're not in the picture. From the mouths of babes came the truth no adult would speak. I was still family despite their best efforts to pretend otherwise. Tyler ran off to show his robot progress to anyone who'd listen, leaving me alone in the garage with the echo of unconditional love from the one family member too young to learn the rules of exclusion. When I returned to the house, the second wave of gift exchange was in full swing. More presents, distributed more photos, taken more performed joy that carefully cropped me out of frame. I stood in the archway between rooms visible but unacknowledged, holding my unopened gifts like props in a play where I'd been written out of the script. The portrait above the fireplace seemed to grow larger with each passing hour, the missing space where I should have been becoming a void that pulled all attention. Visitors glanced at it, then at the family, some mental arithmetic not quite adding up. But politeness prevented questions, and the performance continued. Madison modeled her ring for the dozenth time. Ryan discussed market projections with anyone who'd listen. Mom orchestrated social interactions with military precision. Dad retreated to his recliner with the remote control held like a shield. And I existed in the spaces between neither fully present nor completely absent a ghost haunting my own life. Christmas morning was ending, but the day stretched ahead with more visitors, more meals, more opportunities for exclusion. The envelope waited in my car, patient and powerful, containing evidence of every lie and erasure. Soon I would hand it to them with instructions not to open it here. Soon the performance would end and reality would crash in. But for now, I watched my family pretend I didn't exist, while Tyler's robot whirred to life in the next room, proof that some connections couldn't be severed by photo editing or lies. The clock on the mantel showed 11:45. In 24 hours, I would return for the family brunch, and everything would change. My Hartford apartment welcomed me with blessed silence after the chaos of performative family dysfunction. 3 p.m. on Christmas Day, and I finally felt like I could breathe again. I dropped my overnight bag by the door, kicked off my heels, and went straight to my home office, a converted second bedroom where I processed the medical reports and case files that defined my professional life. But today I wasn't analyzing patient histories. Today I was documenting my own erasure. I pulled out the banker's box from my closet, the one where I kept important documents, tax returns, insurance policies, and something I'd never thought I'd need. Years of financial records showing support for my family. The task ahead required the same methodical approach I used when preparing clinical presentations. Emotion could come later. Right now, I needed evidence. First, the bank statements. I spread 12 months across my desk, highlighting every check written to my parents. $300 monthly for Dad's cardiac medications. $500 for Mom's physical therapy after her knee replacement. The emergency, $2,000 when their water heater exploded last winter. Each transaction meticulously recorded, creating a paper trail of financial support they now pretended never existed. My laptop powered up and I began creating a comprehensive spreadsheet. Date, amount, purpose, whether the check was cashed or returned. The returned check started in October, $1,200 floating in financial limbo, while my parents told relatives I'd abandoned them. I photographed each returned check front and back, creating digital evidence of their rejection. Next, the photos. I had thousands stored in cloud backups, years of family gatherings they couldn't erase from my personal archives. I selected carefully images that showed my integration into family life. The photo from Mom's 60th birthday where I'd organized the entire surprise party. Ryan's wedding where I'd given a toast that made everyone cry. Madison's college graduation, where I'd driven 10 hours straight from my own hospital shift to attend. Each photo told a story of presence they were now denying. I printed them on my high-quality photo printer, arranging them chronologically. Here was proof of existence that no photo memories plus invoice could eliminate. The text messages required more emotional fortitude. I scrolled through years of conversations, screenshotting requests for help I'd always fulfilled. Mom asking me to pick up groceries when Dad had his procedure. Ryan begging for money to cover gambling debts before Emma found out. Madison needing rides, needing advice, needing a sister who always showed up. The evidence of my availability, reliability, and constant presence in their lives filled page after page. Then came the hard part, documenting their recent lies. I created a new folder labeled False Narratives and began compiling the evidence Sarah and Aunt Jennifer had gathered. Screenshots of Madison's social media posts about missing her distant sister. The conflicting stories about my whereabouts, Seattle, London, Prague, Arizona. The Thanksgiving photos showing a complete family gathering I'd never been invited to. I found the photographer's website and located the original family portrait. For $75, I purchased the high-resolution digital file. The metadata confirmed what I already knew. The photo was taken October 2nd, a day I'd specifically arranged my schedule to attend. In the original, I stood between Madison and Ryan, my hand on Mom's shoulder, smiling at the camera with no idea I'd soon be digitally erased. The email to Marcus Lynn at the Current proved invaluable. I printed the entire obituary submission, including the receipt showing Madison had paid $340 for a full memorial spread. They'd selected a photo from my college graduation, one where I appeared alone in cap and gown, no family members visible to complicate their death narrative. I drafted a timeline on legal paper, my handwriting precise and clinical. September 14th, refused $50,000 investment in Park Spot. September 15th, first photo editing receipt dated. September 20th, excluded from Madison's birthday dinner. September 28th, blocked from family seating at soccer game. October 5th, prevented from taking Dad to doctor. October 15th, checks begin being returned. October 30th, false stories about my location begin circulating. November 1st, first obituary submission attempted. November 26th, Thanksgiving gathering held without my knowledge. December 15th, second obituary submission. December 24th, discovered portrait with me edited out. The pattern was clear, deliberate, and documented. This wasn't a misunderstanding or communication breakdown. This was a systematic campaign to remove me from family history. Grace, my lawyer friend, had helped me understand the legal implications. While family members had no obligation to maintain relationships, fraud was another matter. Attempting to publish death notices for living people crossed legal boundaries. Telling different lies to collect sympathy while continuing to accept financial support skirted fraud. The returned checks while claiming I'd stopped helping could be construed as defamation. I wasn't planning to sue my family, but I wanted them to understand that their actions had legal weight, that erasure came with consequences beyond hurt feelings. The medical records came next. 2 years ago, when Dad needed a kidney transplant evaluation, I'd undergone testing as a potential donor. My blood type made me a match, and I'd spent weeks undergoing psychological and physical evaluations. The transplant became unnecessary when medication managed his condition, but the records showed my willingness to literally give an organ for the man, now pretending I didn't exist. I included emails from that time, Dad's grateful messages about my sacrifice, Mom's tears of relief that I was willing Ryan's admission that he was terrified to get tested himself, evidence of love that predated their current fiction. The hardest document to write was the personal letter. I went through several drafts, each angrier than the last. Finally, I found the right tone. Calm, factual, but honest about the pain they'd caused. Dear Mom and Dad, this envelope contains evidence of our shared history, the one you paid $200 to erase. Every check, written every event, attended every moment of support freely given. You'll also find documentation of your recent campaign to remove me from family existence, including attempts to publish my obituary while I live 40 minutes away. I don't understand how we got here, how a refusal to risk my financial security on a failed startup led to systematic erasure, how the daughter who offered her kidney for transplant became someone you'd declare dead in the newspaper, how 28 years of love evaporated over a business investment. The saddest part isn't the photos you edited or the lies you've told, it's that you spent more energy erasing me than it would have taken to simply maintain our relationship. Every dollar spent on photo editing, every elaborate lie about my whereabouts, every returned check, the effort required to pretend I don't exist exceeds what it would have cost to simply love me as I am. I'm establishing boundaries now. Financial support ends immediately. Medical proxy privileges are revoked. Any further attempts to publish false death notices will be met with legal action. The truth has been shared with extended family members who deserve honesty. But I'm also leaving a door open. Family therapy with a licensed professional. Full accountability for the lies told. Public acknowledgement of what you've done. These aren't punishments. They're the minimum requirements for rebuilding trust. The choice is yours. You can continue pretending I died, or you can acknowledge that your living daughter deserves better than erasure. With love despite everything, Lindsay. I sealed everything in a large manila envelope, then created 2 additional copies. One for Aunt Jennifer, who'd already proven herself an ally. One for Grace, who would keep it in her office safe. The original would go to my parents tomorrow at the family brunch they assumed I wouldn't attend. As I worked, my phone buzzed with messages from Tyler. Photos of his completed robot, a video of it moving across the floor, excited text messages in all caps about how it was the best present ever. Each message, a reminder that connection existed beyond their carefully constructed exclusion. Sarah arrived at 6 with Chinese takeout and a bottle of wine. Merry Jewish Christmas. She announced our traditional celebration when neither of us had functional family plans. Tell me everything. Over Lomen and Merlot, I walked her through the day's discoveries and my planned response. She listened with the attention of a true friend, asking clarifying questions and offering support without judgment. The obituary thing is insane, she said, refilling our wine glasses. Like clinically insane. Who thinks that's a reasonable response to someone not investing in a parking app? People who've confused image with reality, I replied. They've spent so much time curating their perfect family that they forgot families are supposed to include imperfect people who make independent choices. What do you think will happen tomorrow? I considered the question. Honestly, I have no idea. They might double down on the denial. They might explode. They might actually feel shame. But at least everyone will know the truth. We spent the evening addressing envelopes to extended family members, including copies of key evidence with explanatory notes. Each envelope a small bomb of truth that would detonate in mailboxes across New England. By the time relatives received them, my parents would have to acknowledge what they'd done. By 11 p.m., everything was ready. The main envelope sat on my kitchen counter, thick with evidence and weighted with consequences. Tomorrow, I would hand it to my parents with a simple instruction not to open it there. They'd have to wait to wonder to carry the weight of uncertainty I'd been bearing for months. The apartment fell quiet after Sarah left. I sat in my living room, surrounded by the life I'd built independent of family dysfunction. My degrees on the wall earned without their financial help. Photos of friends who'd become chosen family. Evidence of a life fully lived despite their erasure. Tomorrow would bring confrontation and consequences. But tonight, I'd prepared my case with the thoroughness of a prosecutor and the pain of a daughter scorned. The envelope would speak truths they'd paid to hide, document love they'd chosen to forget, and offer a choice they'd have to make. Erasure, I'd learned, was expensive but reversible. Truth once released was free and permanent. Tomorrow, my family would learn the difference. December 26th arrived gray and bitter cold, matching my mood as I prepared for the family brunch. I dressed carefully. a navy suit that projected professional competence, pearl earrings Mom had given me for college graduation before I became erasable. The manila envelope sat on my passenger seat as I drove to Grace's law office, needing one final review before the confrontation. Grace met me despite the holiday understanding the urgency. Her office smelled of leather and coffee, a combination that always made me feel protected. She'd been my friend since medical school orientation, but her transition to law had proven fortuitous. Now she reviewed my documentation with the sharp eye of someone who understood both personal betrayal and legal boundaries. "Walk me through the timeline again," she said, spreading papers across her conference table. "I want to make sure we have everything covered." I recounted the progression from refused investment to attempted obituary, watching her expression shift from professional interest to personal outrage. Grace had met my family numerous times, attended parties at their house, knew the dynamics I was describing. "The obituary attempts are criminal," she stated flatly. "Fraud, possibly identity theft, depending on how they presented themselves to the newspaper. The return checks, while claiming you stopped supporting them, could constitute defamation if they've damaged your reputation with family members. I don't want to prosecute. I just want them to understand the seriousness. Sometimes the threat of consequences is more powerful than the consequences themselves." She pulled out her laptop and began typing. "Let me draft something that makes the legal implications clear without crossing into actual threats." While she worked, I studied the property documents she'd uncovered during her research. The family trust established by my grandparents had been recently amended. My name, previously listed as an equal beneficiary with Ryan and Madison, had been removed. The life insurance policies showed the same modification. Even the emergency contact forms for Dad's medical providers had been changed, despite my healthcare background making me the logical choice. "This is thorough," Grace murmured. "They didn't just remove you from photos. They've systematically eliminated any legal claim you might have to family assets or decision-making power. When did they make these changes?" "The trust was amended October 10th, life insurance on October 17th, everything filed within a 2-week period." She pulled up another document. "Here's what's interesting. They listed the reason as beneficiary permanently relocated overseas on the insurance forms. They're creating a paper trail to support their lies." The calculation required for such comprehensive erasure stunned me. While I'd been working extra shifts to cover Dad's medication costs, they'd been meeting with lawyers and insurance agents to write me out of everything. The time invested, the money spent on legal fees, the coordination required. It spoke to a level of commitment that transformed hurt into something colder. "There's more." Grace continued, her expression darkening. "I found something concerning in the trust amendment. There's a clause about missing beneficiaries that activates if someone can't be located for 6 months. Given their obituary attempts and false stories about your whereabouts, they're trying to have me declared legally missing. It's a possible interpretation. Create enough documentation that you're unreachable. Wait 6 months, then claim your portion of the trust reverts to the remaining beneficiaries." She printed the relevant pages, highlighting key sections. "Madison and Ryan would split your third worth approximately $400,000 based on the last valuation. $400,000. The amount made their $50,000 investment request seem even more insulting. They'd wanted me to risk my savings on a doomed startup while planning to steal my inheritance through legal maneuvering." Grace drafted a formal letter outlining the legal implications of their actions. It referenced specific statutes about fraud defamation and inheritance manipulation without making direct threats. The language was precise, professional, and devastating in its clarity. She also prepared a cease and desist order regarding any further obituary attempts or false statements about my whereabouts. "I'm including a documentation preservation notice," she explained. "They'll be legally required to maintain all records related to these actions: emails, texts, receipts. If this escalates, we'll need that evidence." While she finalized the documents, I reviewed the medical proxy forms I'd prepared. Previously, my parents held decision-making power if I became incapacitated. The new forms revoked their authority, assigning it to Sarah and Grace instead. It felt strange removing parents from such an intimate role, but I couldn't trust people actively trying to declare me dead with power over my life. "One more thing," Grace said, pulling up her email. "Remember Dr. Patricia Hernandez from the Medical Ethics Board? I reached out to her about the kidney donor situation. She's willing to provide a statement about the psychological evaluation required for living donors. It would emphasize that you underwent significant testing and counseling to potentially save your father's life." I nodded, adding it to the growing pile of evidence. Each document painted a picture of a daughter who'd given everything and received erasure in return. The medical records were particularly damning. Who edits out someone willing to donate an organ? My phone buzzed with a text from Aunt Jennifer. "Just arrived at your parents' house. The extended family is gathering. Your absence has been noticed and questioned. I'm saying nothing until you arrive. Stay strong." "It's time," I told Grace. "The audience is assembled." She handed me the completed legal documents, now bound in a professional folder that added weight to their authority. "Remember, you don't have to explain or justify anything. The documents speak for themselves. If they become hostile, you leave immediately, and we proceed with formal legal channels." What are the odds they'll choose reconciliation over continued denial? Grace considered the question with lawyer-like care. "In my experience, people this invested in a lie rarely abandon it willingly. They've spent months and thousands of dollars creating this fiction. Admitting the truth means acknowledging not just the original conflict, but every subsequent betrayal. That's a lot of shame to process." We arranged the documents in order of impact. Financial records first establishing my history of support, then the evidence of their lies and erasure attempts. The legal implications next making consequences clear. Finally, my personal letter offering a path forward. The folder had weight, physical and metaphorical. "I'll be on call," Grace promised. "If you need immediate legal intervention, just text me." I left her office with 2 copies of everything, one for my parents, one for Aunt Jennifer as witness documentation. The December wind cut through my coat as I walked to my car, but internal resolve kept me warm. Months of confusion and hurt had crystallized into clear action. They'd tried to erase me from family history. Now I would write myself back in with evidence they couldn't delete. The drive to my childhood home took 35 minutes through light holiday traffic. Each mile brought a mix of anxiety and determination. I'd spent weeks being edited out of their lives. Today, I would become uneditable, a truth too documented to deny, a presence too legal to ignore. My phone showed 11:50. The family brunch would be in full swing. Extended relatives gathered for what they believed was a routine holiday meal. They had no idea they were about to witness the collision between carefully maintained fiction and meticulously documented reality. I pulled into the driveway behind cars I recognized: Aunt Jennifer's Prius, Uncle Robert's SUV, various cousins' vehicles, creating an automotive family reunion. Inside that house, my family was performing their version of normal while planning my funeral. The thought steeled my resolve as I grabbed both folders and walked toward the front door. The doorbell felt strange under my finger. When had I become a guest requiring announcement in my childhood home? But I pressed it anyway, hearing the familiar chime echo through rooms where my erasure was about to end. The door opened to reveal Madison, her expression cycling from surprise to alarm to something resembling fear. Behind her, I could hear the buzz of conversation, the clink of glasses, the sounds of a family gathering I should have been part of. "Lindsay." She said my name like a question, as if my existence required confirmation. "What are you doing here?" I smiled with more confidence than I felt. "Attending the family brunch. Isn't that what we do on December 26th? She stood frozen in the doorway, blocking my entrance, while her mind clearly raced through options. But I was done waiting for permission to exist. I stepped forward and she automatically moved aside, 28 years of sibling dynamics overriding recent programming. The house smelled of coffee and Mom's famous breakfast casserole. Familiar voices carried from the dining room, punctuated by laughter that would soon end. I walked through my childhood home like I belonged there, because despite their best efforts, I did. The conversation stopped when I entered the dining room. 13 faces turned toward me, with expressions ranging from confusion to recognition to dawning understanding that something significant was about to happen. Mom's coffee cup trembled in her hand. Dad's jaw tightened. Ryan wouldn't meet my eyes. But Aunt Jennifer smiled fierce and proud as I took my place at the table I'd been excluded from just yesterday. "Good morning, everyone," I said, setting the manila envelope prominently beside my plate. "I hope I'm not too late for brunch." The dining room fell silent except for the grandfather clock's steady ticking. 13 pairs of eyes tracked my movement as I pulled out the chair between Aunt Jennifer and Cousin Patricia. My traditional spot at family gatherings left empty, but not eliminated. The wood scraped against hardwood as I settled in, placing the manila envelope beside the untouched place, setting someone had reflexively laid out. "Lindsay," Mom's voice carried forced brightness. "We weren't expecting you." "Strange," I replied, accepting the coffee pot from Aunt Jennifer. "December 26th brunch has been a family tradition for 15 years. Why wouldn't I be here?" Uncle Robert cleared his throat, his investment banker instincts sensing undercurrents. "We were just discussing your new position in Seattle. Exciting opportunity in tech, your mother says." "I'm curious about that." I stirred cream into my coffee with deliberate calm. Which tech company did she say I worked for? Mom's knuckles whitened around her fork. I may have gotten some details confused. "Microsoft," Madison interjected quickly. "You're with Microsoft's healthcare division." "Amazon," Ryan said simultaneously. "Cloud computing for hospitals." The conflicting lies hung in the air like discharged weapons. Patricia's eyebrows climbed toward her hairline, while Derek exchanged glances with Aunt Jennifer. Even Jeremy, master of startup doublespeak, seemed to recognize the contradiction. "Interesting." I took a sip of coffee. "Two different companies. What are the odds I work for both?" "Communication mix-up." Dad growled his standard response to any family conflict. "Not important. Pass the fruit salad." But Grandma, 91 and sharp as surgical steel, wasn't satisfied. "I thought you were studying in Prague, dear. Your postcards describe the architecture beautifully." Postcards. I kept my voice level despite the fresh wound. "What do they say exactly?" She reached into her purse, producing a small stack tied with ribbon. "Such lovely messages about your international business program, though your handwriting seems different somehow. More." She squinted at the cards. "Masculine." I accepted the postcards, recognizing neither the handwriting nor the generic sentiments. Someone, likely Ryan, whose penmanship always looked like Arial font, had been forging correspondence from me. The violation felt fresh despite expecting it. "Grandma," I said gently, "I've been calling you every Sunday for 3 years. We talk about your garden and your book club and whether the Patriots deserve their latest loss. But Helen said you were too busy with studies to call, that European phone plans were terribly expensive. My phone plan costs $40 a month and includes unlimited calling. I live in Hartford, 40 minutes away. I work at Hartford Hospital in the cardiac unit. I've never been to Prague." The extended family began to shift uncomfortably as reality collided with months of carefully constructed fiction. Cousin Emma spoke up. "Wait, I asked about carpooling when I got the Hartford Hospital offer. Your mom said you were across the country." "She said you were at a meditation retreat," Uncle Robert's wife added, "in Arizona for spiritual healing." London, Patricia's teenage daughter, supplied scrolling through her phone. "Aunt Helen told my mom you were doing a fellowship at London Medical College. I was going to ask for tips since I'm applying to study abroad programs." Each contradiction layered upon the last, creating a palimpsest of lies that revealed the truth through their inconsistency. Mom's face had progressed from pale to ashen, while Madison twisted her engagement ring like a combination lock that might open an escape route. "Perhaps," Aunt Jennifer suggested with deceptive mildness, Someone could explain why Lindsay's location seems to be a quantum physics experiment, where she exists in multiple places simultaneously. Family business, Dad snapped. Not appropriate for holiday brunch. On the contrary, I said, finally letting steel enter my voice. I think family brunch is the perfect venue to discuss why you've spent 3 months telling everyone I'm somewhere I'm not, or why you paid $1,200 to have me professionally edited out of family photos, or why you tried to publish my obituary, twice. Grandma's coffee cup clattered against her saucer. Obituary? What obituary? I pulled out the printed submission from the envelope, passing it to her. The one declaring I died unexpectedly while traveling abroad. The memorial service was scheduled for next Friday. Madison paid $340 for the full spread. That's impossible. Patricia snatched the paper, reading with growing horror. This says you died last Tuesday. You're sitting right here. Yes, well, reports of my death have been greatly exaggerated. I distributed copies around the table, watching comprehension dawn on face after face, though not for lack of trying on my family's part. Tyler chose that moment to burst in from the living room, robot in hand. Aunt Lindsay. Look, I made it walk upstairs. The gyroscope you helped me install works perfectly. He skidded to a stop, sensing the adult tension, but 6-year-old enthusiasm won over social awareness. Grammy, did you see Aunt Lindsay gave me the best present? She's the only one who remembered I love robots? Tyler, go play, Emma instructed, but Tyler had already climbed into my lap, showing me his modifications to the robot's programming. His unconscious affection highlighted the absurdity of my supposed non-existence. This is ridiculous. Jeremy attempted his venture capitalist confidence shaky. Clearly there's been some miscommunication, like the miscommunication where you all asked me for $50,000 to invest in ParkSpot. I shifted Tyler to my hip, his presence a tiny shield, the app that folded after 6 weeks, taking Ryan's $100,000 with it. That's confidential business information, Jeremy protested. Was confidential, past tense, like your engagement apparently. I nodded toward Madison's bare ring finger, noticed by others who began processing this new information. Madison's face crumbled. He broke up with me yesterday, said he couldn't marry into a family that would declare their own daughter dead rather than admit a bad investment, Aunt Jennifer supplied helpfully. Yes, I can see how that might give a person pause. The careful facade finally shattered completely. Mom stood abruptly, her chair scraping backwards. You don't understand what you've put us through, Lindsay. The embarrassment of having a daughter who hoards money while her family struggles. Hoards. The word emerged as half laugh, half sob. I've given you over $70,000 in the last 5 years. I pay Dad's medication costs monthly. I covered Ryan's gambling debts to protect your reputation. I spent 2 weeks getting tested as a kidney donor when Dad needed transplants. How is that hoarding? But when we really needed you, Mom's voice broke on rehearsed emotion. You needed me to throw away my life savings on a parking app. I pulled out the bank statements, spreading them across the breakfast spread like tarot cards revealing the future. Here's every check I've written, and here are the ones you returned starting in October, right after you paid to have me edited from photos. Uncle Robert, ever the numbers man, began scanning the statements. His low whistle punctuated the mounting evidence. This is significant financial support, Helen, more than most adult children provide. But she refused to invest in Madison's future. Dad interjected, finding his voice. Family supports family. Like I supported Ryan. I pulled out another document. Here's the $40,000 I gave him for gambling debts. Debts you still don't know the full extent of. Ryan, would you like to tell them about the second mortgage on your house? The one Emma doesn't know about. Ryan's face went from red to white. Emma turned slowly toward her husband. Second mortgage. What second mortgage? Or should we discuss the family trust? I continued, momentum building. The one you amended in October to remove me as beneficiary. The one that would have distributed my third to Madison and Ryan if you'd successfully convinced people I was dead. Gasps rippled around the table as implications sank in. Cousin Patricia's husband, a contracts lawyer, reached for the trust documents I'd laid out. His expression grew increasingly grim as he read. This is conspiracy to commit fraud," he said quietly. "If Lindsay had actually died mysteriously abroad after you'd spread stories about her various locations, removed her from family photos, and changed beneficiary documents, we would never—" Mom's protest rang hollow even to her. "Never what?" I asked. "Never edit me out of existence. Never tell everyone I'm in 12 different cities. Never try to publish my death notice. You've already done all that. What exactly wouldn't you do?" Tyler wiggled in my arms, upset by raised voices. I set him down gently. "Go find your robot manual, buddy. We'll work on new programs later." He scampered off, but not before announcing, "I'm glad you're not really dead, Aunt Lindsay. That would be super sad." From the mouths of babes. Grandma had been uncharacteristically quiet studying the postcards supposedly from me. Now she spoke with matriarchal authority that commanded instant attention. "Helen Marie Johnson, explain yourself, immediately." Mom crumbled under her mother's glare. She betrayed the family, refused to support Madison's dreams. After everything we've done for her, everything you've done. My laugh felt like broken glass in my throat. "You mean, like teaching me family means unconditional support while placing conditions on your love, or maybe raising me to be financially responsible, then punishing me for it? You're twisting things. Am I?" I pulled out the photo editing receipts. $1,200 to remove me from family pictures. That's not twisted creating fake postcards from me. Publishing death notices. Which part am I misunderstanding? Aunt Jennifer placed a protective hand on my shoulder. "I've been documenting everything for months. Every lie told, every story changed, every relative given different information. Would anyone like to guess how many versions of Lindsay's whereabouts I've collected?" She produced her own folder thick with notes and screenshots. 14. 14 different cities across 6 continents. She's apparently studying, working, meditating, and dying simultaneously in multiple time zones. It's almost impressive in its audacity. We were protecting the family's reputation. Dad attempted one last defense. People talk when children become estranged. We gave them reasons that preserved everyone's dignity. Everyone's except mine. I stood slowly gathering my documents. You turned me into a cautionary tale, a wayward daughter too selfish to support family. Meanwhile, I was 40 minutes away, working extra shifts to pay for medications. You're now buying yourself to maintain the fiction that I abandoned you. The room felt too small, too hot, too full of revealed truths and shattered pretenses. Mom had started crying. Real tears this time, not the performed emotion from earlier. Madison sat frozen, staring at her bare ring finger, as if it held answers. Ryan kept glancing between Emma and the second mortgage documentation, calculating which relationship might survive the morning. "I'll be back tomorrow," I announced, leaving the manila envelope on the table. That contains full documentation of everything: financial records, photo receipts, obituary attempts, legal implications. Aunt Jennifer and my lawyer have copies. So does the Hartford Courant, though. They've agreed to hold the story pending family resolution. Story. Mom's tears stopped abruptly. What story? Local family attempts to declare living daughter dead after failed investment. Has a nice ring to it. Don't you think Marcus Lynn is particularly interested in the photo editing angle? Says it speaks to modern family dynamics in the social media age. The threat of public exposure hit harder than any emotional appeal. Their carefully curated public image, the successful family with thriving children and strong values, would crumble under scrutiny. However, I continued, I'm willing to keep this private. Family therapy with a licensed professional, full accounting of all lies told to extended family, public acknowledgement of what you've done, and immediate cessation of any death-related fictional narratives. Therapy, Dad sputtered. We don't need. Yes, Grandma interrupted with steel in her voice. "You do. My God, Helen, what have you become? This isn't how I raised you. This isn't who we are." She turned to me with tears in her eyes. "Lindsay, dear, I'm so sorry. I should have questioned the postcards, should have known something was wrong when you stopped calling. I failed you." "You were lied to, Grandma. That's not failing. That's being deceived by people you trusted." Uncle Robert stood his wife beside him. "I think we should go. This is clearly a private family matter that needs resolution." Others began rising, gathering coats and children, fleeing the discomfort of witnessed dysfunction. Patricia hugged me tightly, whispering promises to call later. Derek shook my hand with lawyer-like formality, pressing his business card into my palm. Emma left without speaking to Ryan Tyler's confused questions trailing behind them. Soon, only immediate family remained, the nucleus of dysfunction surrounded by the debris of their deception. The portrait above the fireplace seemed to watch us, the edited version, mocking the reality below. 24 hours, I said quietly. You have 1 day to decide. Therapy and accountability or public exposure and legal consequences. Choose wisely. I left them there among scattered bank statements and death notices. Their elaborate fiction collapsed around them like a house of cards in a hurricane. Aunt Jennifer followed me out her own documentation, tucked under her arm. "You did well," she said as we stood by our cars. "Proud of you for standing up to them." It doesn't feel like victory. It feels like loss. Sometimes standing up for yourself means losing people who only loved a version of you they could control. That's not really loss. It's liberation. I drove away from my childhood home, leaving behind a family who'd paid to erase me, and a future that depended on whether they valued truth more than fiction. In 24 hours, I'd return for their answer. Whatever they chose, I'd already won something important. The right to exist, without edit, without apology, without permission. They could accept that or not, but they could no longer deny it. The robot Tyler had built with my help was proof that some connections transcend photo editing and death notices. Creation beats erasure every time, even when the creators are only 6 years old and believe in the permanence of ants who give perfect presents. The 24 hours passed with glacial slowness. I spent December 27th at work finding refuge in the cardiac unit's predictable chaos. Heart attacks didn't care about family drama. Blocked arteries required immediate attention, not elaborate deceptions. My colleagues noticed my distraction but respectfully didn't pry the unspoken understanding of healthcare workers who all carried invisible burdens. Sarah texted throughout the day with updates from her reconnaissance network. The family gossip circuit had exploded with news of yesterday's confrontation. Relatives were comparing notes, discovering the inconsistencies in stories they'd been told. My supposed locations were mapped and mocked. How could anyone be in Seattle and Prague simultaneously? The extended family felt foolish for believing it, angry at being deceived, sympathetic toward me in varying degrees. At 6 p.m., I changed from scrubs to the outfit I'd selected that morning, black slacks and a burgundy sweater that said, "Professional but not trying too hard." The same pearl earrings because consistency mattered. The drive to my parents' house felt both familiar and foreign, like returning to a childhood school as an adult. The driveway held only immediate family cars. Mom's Lexus, Dad's pickup, Madison's BMW, Ryan's Tesla with its vanity plate. No extended family buffer this time, just us and the truth, whatever remained of it. I didn't knock. Some privileges of belonging couldn't be revoked by photo editing or death notices. The house felt different than yesterday. Quieter, heavier, like the air before a thunderstorm. I found them in the living room, arranged like a tribunal around the fireplace where my edited portrait still hung. Mom had been crying, her eyes puffy, makeup absent. Dad sat in his recliner, but upright, not hiding behind newspapers or remotes. Madison curled in the corner of the sofa like she was trying to disappear into the cushions. Ryan stood by the window, probably calculating escape routes. "You came," Mom said unnecessarily. "I said I would." I took the wingback chair that had always been mine, noting they'd left it empty. Have you made a decision? Before we discuss that, Dad interrupted using his business voice. We need to address the threats you made yesterday. Newspaper stories, legal action. That's not how family handles problems. Neither is publishing obituaries for living daughters, but here we are. That was a misunderstanding. Which time? I pulled out my phone, scrolling to the emails from Marcus Lynn. The first submission in November or the second one last week, hard to misunderstand filling out death notice forms twice. Madison finally spoke, her voice small. I was angry. You had so much money saved while Jeremy's dreams were dying. It wasn't fair. Fair. The word tasted bitter. Was it fair when I covered Ryan's gambling debts? Was it fair when I spent 2 weeks getting tested as a kidney donor? Was it fair when I paid Dad's medications for 2 years? Where was your concern for fairness then? You always lord that over us, Ryan burst out. Perfect Lindsay with her perfect job and perfect savings and perfect judgment. Maybe we got tired of being compared to someone who never takes risks. Never takes risks. I stood needing movement. I risk my emotional stability every time I enter this house. I risk my sanity trying to understand how refusing one investment led to complete erasure. I risk my heart loving people who paid to delete me from family history. We didn't delete you, Mom protested. We just adjusted the narrative. Adjusted the narrative. I repeated the phrase, slowly tasting its corporate emptiness. Is that what we're calling it? Like adjusting a hemline or adjusting for inflation. You adjusted me out of existence. The family consultant said, Stop. I held up my hand. The family consultant, who happened to be Jeremy's mother, the one who stood to profit from my investment. You took advice from someone with clear financial motivation to exclude me? She had credentials, Dad defended, a degree in family systems theory. From where University of Phoenix Trump University, did you even verify her credentials before letting her convince you to disown your daughter? Silence answered me. They hadn't checked too eager for validation of their anger to question its source. The manipulation felt complete. Jeremy's mother playing puppet master while they danced to her tune wallets open and hearts closed. Let me guess. I continued piecing it together. She told you I was a toxic influence, that my refusal to invest showed narcissistic tendencies, that the family would be stronger without dead weight. Am I close? Mom's flinch confirmed it. She said setting boundaries with manipulative family members was healthy, that we were enabling your hoarding disorder by accepting your conditional support. My conditional support I gave unconditionally for years. The only thing I refused was bankrupting myself for a parking app. It wasn't just about the money, Madison interjected. You've always been different, always holding yourself apart, judging us. Different how? Because I went to medical school instead of marrying young, because I save money instead of spending it immediately, because I ask questions before investing in obvious scams, because you think you're better than us, Ryan said flatly. Always have. Even now, standing there like some righteous victim when you're the one who broke the family. I broke the family. My voice cracked on the absurdity. I refused one investment. You responded by editing me out of photos, telling everyone I died, and trying to steal my inheritance. But I'm the one who broke us. You don't understand loyalty, Dad growled. Family means supporting each other no matter what. No, family means supporting each other within reason. It means honest communication when requests cross boundaries. It means loving someone even when they say no. What you're describing isn't family. It's financial abuse wrapped in emotional manipulation. How dare I, what Speak Truth document lies, refuse to disappear quietly? I dare, because I'm still your daughter, despite your best efforts to change that. Mom started crying again, but these tears felt different. Less performed, more broken. We went too far, I know that. But you hurt us so deeply when you refused to help Madison. It felt like you were saying her dreams didn't matter. I was saying my financial security mattered too. Why is that controversial? Why does my stability threaten Madison's dreams? Because we're supposed to take care of each other, Madison burst out. That's what family does. Taking care doesn't mean enabling poor decisions. Would you give Tyler your life savings if he asked for it tomorrow to buy magic beans? That's different. He's a child. And you're not. You're 26 years old crying because your sister won't fund your boyfriend's startup. How is that different from Tyler wanting magic beans? The comparison stung visible in Madison's recoil, but truth often stung when lies had been more comfortable. Enough, Dad commanded, standing with the authority of someone used to being obeyed. You've made your point. We acted rashly, but your ultimatum yesterday, therapy or public humiliation, that's manipulation too. It's accountability, something this family seems allergic to. We'll do the therapy, Mom said quietly, surprising everyone. I've already researched therapists who specialize in family systems and financial trauma. Dr. Elizabeth Chen comes highly recommended. Chen, I almost laughed at the irony. One of the names you refused to use in our family interesting choice. Don't be petty, Lindsay, we're trying. Are you performing contrition to avoid public embarrassment? How do I know this isn't just another adjusted narrative? Because I'm tired, Mom admitted, seeming to age before my eyes. Tired of maintaining lies, tired of remembering who knows what, tired of missing my daughter while pretending she doesn't exist. The consultant was wrong. We were wrong. Is that what you need to hear? It's a start. But I need more than words. I need actions, starting with telling everyone the truth. Everyone Ryan paled at the prospect. Every single person you lied to. Aunt Jennifer has the list. 14 different stories told to dozens of people. Each one needs to hear the truth from you, not from me. That's humiliating, Madison whispered. More humiliating than being edited out of existence. More humiliating than reading your own obituary. You're worried about embarrassment while I'm fighting to prove I'm alive. We'll do it, Dad said heavily. Make the calls, send the emails, whatever it takes. But in return, you keep this private. No newspaper stories, no legal action, no public exposure. And the financial documents, the trust amendments, the insurance changes. Reversed, everything back to equal distribution. The photo portrait. They all looked at the edited family photo hanging above us. In its expensive frame, the perfect family smiled back, minus one daughter whose existence had become inconvenient. We'll commission a new one, Mom offered, with you included this time. No, I want that one to stay exactly where it is. Let it remind you of what happens when image matters more than truth. Commission a new one if you want, but that monument to deception stays visible. That's cruel, Madison protested. Cruel is trying to publish your sister's obituary because she wouldn't invest in your boyfriend's startup. The portrait is just honest. Silence stretched between us, years of family dysfunction compressed into moments of recognition. We'd reached the heart of it. Not the money or the investment, but the fundamental question of whether this family could survive truth after months of lies. I need one more thing, I said finally. An explanation. Not excuses or consultant blame deflection. I need to understand how you went from anger over refused investment to systematically erasing me. Walk me through the decision-making process that led to spending $1,200 on photo editing. Mom and Dad exchanged glances, years of marriage allowing silent communication. Finally, Mom spoke. It started small. Madison was so upset after you refused the investment. She felt betrayed, like you were choosing money over her happiness. The consultant validated those feelings, encouraged us to see your refusal as a pattern of withholding love. When Ryan lost his investment 2 weeks later, it got worse. Dad continued. Madison blamed you, said if you'd invested too, Jeremy would have had more resources to save the company. The consultant supported that narrative. She gave us articles about toxic family members, Ryan added reluctantly. Case studies of families that thrived after cutting out the person holding them back. It made sense when she explained it. "You became the reason for every problem," Madison admitted. "Jeremy's company failed because you didn't support it. Ryan's marriage struggled because the gambling debts you revealed. Mom and Dad fought about money because you made them question their spending. Everything wrong traced back to you. So you decided to eliminate the variable," I said, understanding with terrible clarity. "Remove me from the equation and problems would solve themselves." The photo editing was Madison's idea, Mom said, earning a betrayed look from her youngest. "She said seeing you in pictures hurt too much. We thought it would be temporary just until emotions cooled. But once we started, it became easier to continue," Dad admitted. "One edited photo led to another. One lie about your whereabouts led to 12. Before we knew it, we'd created this elaborate fiction that demanded constant maintenance." "The obituary," Madison's voice trailed off, "was the logical conclusion," I finished. "If I'm going to be absent from everything, might as well make it permanent. Death is simpler than estrangement. Cleaner narrative. We never would have actually, what you already tried twice. What exactly wouldn't you have done?" No one answered because the truth was too terrible. In their elaborate fiction, my actual death would have been convenient. The realization sat between us like a poison pill no one wanted to swallow. "We'll do better," Mom promised into the silence. "Therapy, truth-telling, whatever it takes to repair this." "You can't repair it," I said gently but firmly. "Some things break beyond fixing. We can possibly build something new, but what we had is gone. You killed it with photo editing software and newspaper obituaries." "So there's no hope?" Madison asked, tears flowing freely. "There's always hope. But hope requires honesty, and honesty requires admitting you tried to erase your sister rather than face your own poor judgment. Can you do that? Can you own your choices without blaming me, the consultant, or anyone else?" They sat with the question weighing pride against possibility. The family that had spent months maintaining lies now faced the harder task of maintaining truth. "Yes," Mom said, finally speaking for all of them with matriarchal authority. "We can do that. We will do that." "Then we start therapy next week. Dr. Chen has an opening Thursday at 4. Everyone attends, no excuses." "Even Tyler?" Ryan asked. "Especially Tyler. He's been watching you perform this dysfunction. He needs to see you choose differently." They nodded, accepting terms like defeated generals at a treaty signing. The war was over, but reconstruction would take years if it happened at all. I stood to leave, emotionally drained but oddly hopeful. "One last thing. The money you spent on photo editing, I want that donated to the Hartford Hospital Cardiac Unit Patient Assistance Fund. Let something good come from your $1,200 erasure." "Done," Dad agreed immediately. "Anything else?" "Yes. Tyler asked me to help with his robot's advanced programming. I'll be here Saturday at 10. Try not to schedule my funeral for the same time." The dark humor landed poorly, but I didn't care. If we were rebuilding, it would be on my terms with my boundaries and my right to point out absurdity when it arose. I left them sitting in their living room beneath the edited portrait, contemplating the ruins of their deception and the possibility of construction something true. The December night was cold, but clear stars visible, despite suburban light pollution. My phone buzzed with texts from Aunt Jennifer, Sarah, and Grace, all checking in. I sent a group message, "Therapy agreed to. Truth-telling begins. Cautiously hopeful." The responses came immediately. Heart emojis, supportive words, reminders that chosen family waited if birth family failed. The network of support they'd tried to convince others I'd abandoned wrapped around me like armor. I drove home thinking about Tyler's robot, how we'd built it from components that seemed unrelated until properly connected. Maybe families could be rebuilt the same way, piece by piece, connection by connection, truth by carefully placed truth. Time would tell whether my parents could maintain honesty after months of lies. But at least we'd moved from erasure to acknowledgement, from fiction to possible fact. in the spectrum of family dysfunction that counted as progress. The edited portrait would hang in their living room as reminder and warning, but new pictures would eventually join it, ones where I existed fully uncropped and unedited. The transition between the two would tell the story of a family that chose truth over image, eventually, if not immediately. For now, that possibility was enough to drive home to. Thursday arrived with the kind of crisp winter clarity that made everything appear sharper, more defined. 3 days had passed since our confrontation, 3 days of carefully worded texts and stilted phone calls as my family attempted to navigate their new reality, one where I existed and their lies were being systematically dismantled. I sat in Dr. Elizabeth Chen's waiting room, having arrived deliberately early to claim emotional territory. The space felt designed for calm, soft gray walls, abstract art that suggested serenity without demanding interpretation, chairs that encouraged proper posture while remaining comfortable. Even the magazines were current, a small miracle in medical waiting rooms. Mom and Dad arrived next, moving with the unified discomfort of people attending their own trial. They sat across from me, not beside me, maintaining physical distance that mirrored our emotional chasm. Mom clutched her purse like a life preserver, while Dad studied his phone with intensity, usually reserved for stock reports. Madison entered 5 minutes later wearing sunglasses, despite the indoor setting the universal signal for either celebrity or shame. In her case, clearly the latter. She chose a chair equidistant from all of us, creating a dysfunctional triangle with me at one point. Ryan arrived last breathless and apologizing about traffic that we all knew wasn't the real cause of his delay. Emma hadn't come, their marriage hanging by threads he'd woven from deception and debt. Tyler was in school too young for this particular session, despite my earlier insistence. Some truths required adult processing before child-safe translation. Johnson family. Dr. Chen appeared precisely at 4, her presence immediately commanding attention. Mid-50s, professionally dressed in charcoal gray, she radiated the kind of calm authority that suggested she'd navigated worse family disasters than ours. Please come in. Her office continued the waiting room's aesthetic, neutral calming designed to minimize emotional activation, while difficult truths emerged. We arranged ourselves on various seating options, the configuration speaking volumes. I took the armchair nearest Dr. Chen. My parents shared the love seat. Madison and Ryan bookended a long couch, maintaining sibling distance. I've reviewed the intake forms you've each submitted. Dr. Chen began, her voice carrying slight musical traces of her heritage. Before we begin, I need to establish ground rules. This is a safe space for truth, but safety doesn't mean comfort. We'll likely discuss uncomfortable realities. Everyone speaks for themselves only. No we statements unless everyone agrees. No interrupting. No leaving unless it's a genuine emergency. Agreed. We nodded like chastened students, the family dynamics already shifting under external authority. Dr. Chen turned to me, first probably recognizing the whistleblower. Lindsay, as the person who initiated this therapy, would you like to start by explaining what brought us here? I'd rehearsed this moment, but words still came slowly. 3 months ago, I refused to invest $50,000 in my sister's boyfriend's startup company. In response, my family had me professionally edited out of family photos, told everyone I'd moved to various international locations, and attempted to publish my obituary in the Hartford Courant. Twice. Dr. Chen's expression remained neutral, but her pen moved across her notepad. That's quite an escalation. Can you help me understand the connection between refusing an investment and obituary attempts? I've been trying to understand that myself. Let's hear from others. Helen is the matriarch. How do you explain this progression? Mom shifted uncomfortably, her practiced composure cracking. It wasn't supposed to go that far. We were hurt when Lindsay refused to support Madison's future. The consultant we hired said, "Stop." Dr. Chen's interruption was gentle but firm. I asked how you explain it, not what a consultant said. Please use I statements about your own choices. Mom struggled with the pronoun shift. I felt betrayed when Lindsay refused. She had so much saved while Madison struggled to support Jeremy's dreams. It felt selfish. Interesting word choice, selfish. Can you define what that means to you? Putting yourself before family, hoarding resources while loved ones need help. And Lindsay, how would you define selfish in this context? Protecting your financial security instead of enabling poor investment decisions. Saying no when yes would cause personal harm. Dr. Chen noted both definitions, two very different interpretations of the same concept. Richard, what's your definition? Dad straightened CEO mode activating. Family means shared resources. When one succeeds, all succeed. When one refuses to share success, it's selfish. By that definition, Dr. Chen observed, would asking someone to risk their entire savings on a startup also be selfish, wanting someone else's success at their expense? The question landed like a precision strike. Dad's mouth opened, then closed the logical trap apparent. Madison, Dr. Chen continued, tell me about the obituary. Whose idea was it? Madison shrunk into herself. Mine, but I was so angry. Lindsay had everything. Career savings, independence. All I had was Jeremy and his dreams. When she refused to invest and then the company failed anyway, I blamed her. If she'd joined us, maybe it would have survived. Help me understand the logic. How would her investment have changed the outcome? More money means more runway, more time to pivot more resources to market effectively. Ryan, you invested $100,000. Did your investment save the company? Ryan flushed. No, but that's different. How is it different? Silence answered her. The logic collapsed under examination, leaving only emotional debris. Ryan's investment had vanished just as Lindsay's would have, but admitting that meant admitting the scapegoating had no foundation. Let's discuss the photo editing, Dr. Chen redirected. $1,200 to remove someone from family pictures. Who made that decision? I did, Mom admitted. Madison was so upset seeing Lindsay in photos. Every picture reminded her of the betrayal. I thought if we just adjusted them temporarily, it would help her heal. Adjusted. Dr. Chen tested the word, like adjusting seasoning in a recipe. Was it that simple? It seemed simple at first. Just remove the source of pain. But then people asked questions. Where's Lindsay in the new portrait? So we had to create explanations. The lies, I interjected, earning a sharp look from Dr. Chen about interrupting. Let's explore that progression, she said, from one edited photo to elaborate deceptions about international relocations. Richard walked me through how that evolved. Dad shifted CEO confidence wavering. People talk in small towns. When someone notices a family member missing from events, they create narratives. We provided alternative narratives. You lied, Dr. Chen clarified gently. It's important to use accurate language here. You created false stories about your daughter's whereabouts. Why was that preferable to the truth? Because the truth made us look like bad parents. Mom burst out, then caught herself. Made me look like a bad mother. What kind of mother has a daughter who won't help her sister? It was easier to say she was far away than admit she was nearby but estranged. So this was about your image. No, well, yes, partly, but also protecting Lindsay's reputation. If people knew she'd refused to help family, they'd think she had healthy boundaries, Dr. Chen suggested. They'd admire fiscal responsibility. What exactly would they think that concerned you? The question hung unanswered because the answer was too revealing. They'd worried people would judge them for raising a daughter who could say no, who wouldn't enable destructive choices, who valued her security over family demands. Let's talk about the obituary specifically, Dr. Chen continued. Madison helped me understand the thought process. You filled out forms declaring your living sister dead. What were you thinking in that moment? Madison's tears started again, but Dr. Chen handed her tissues without sympathy or judgment, just acknowledgement. I wasn't thinking clearly. Jeremy had just broken up with me. The business failed. Everyone kept asking about Lindsay. If she was dead, at least it would be final. No more questions, no more lies to maintain no more reminders of failure. You wanted your sister dead for your convenience. The brutal summary made Madison flinch. Not actually dead, just narratively dead. Like she was dead to me emotionally, so making it official seemed logical. Ryan, you knew about the obituary attempts. Why didn't you intervene? Ryan struggled, his usual confidence shattered. I was dealing with my own problems. Emma discovered the second mortgage I'd hidden. My investment was gone. Lindsay revealing my gambling debts had started a cascade of discoveries. It was easier to let Madison handle her grief however she wanted. Even if that meant publishing false death notices, I didn't think the newspaper would actually run it. But you hoped they would, Dr. Chen pressed. What outcome were you expecting? I don't know. Maybe that Lindsay would see it and realize how much she'd hurt us. That she'd understand the pain she caused and come apologize. Interesting. You wanted to hurt her into apologizing for not giving you money. The absurdity laid bare sounded even worse than the original actions. Dr. Chen let it sit, allowing the full weight of their choices to settle. Lindsay. She turned to me. How did discovering the obituary attempts affect you? I felt erased, I said simply. Not just from photos or family events, but from existence itself. They wanted me dead rather than independent. That's a special kind of rejection. How do you interpret their actions now? I considered carefully. Grief. They're grieving the daughter they thought they owned, the one who'd always say yes, always provide, always enable. When I revealed autonomy, that imaginary daughter died. But instead of mourning her, they tried to kill the real me, too. That's not... Mom started, then stopped at Dr. Chen's raised hand. Is it accurate, Helen? Were you grieving the loss of the daughter you thought you had? Mom's tears came again, but different, deeper, more honest. Maybe. Yes. Lindsay was always the responsible one. Good grades, good job, good savings. We could count on her for everything. When she said no, it felt like losing someone we knew. But you didn't lose me, I pointed out. You threw me away. There's a difference. Let's explore that difference, Dr. Chen suggested. What would healthy grieving have looked like versus what actually occurred? We could have been sad about the investment without erasing her, Ryan admitted quietly. Disappointed without destructive. We could have talked to her, Madison added. Actually communicated instead of consulting strangers about family dynamics. We could have respected her choice, Dad said heavily. Accepted that love doesn't mean unlimited access to resources. Each admission built on the last, creating a foundation of accountability that had been missing for months. Dr. Chen guided without judging, extracted truth without weapons, created space for honesty without enabling excuses. There's something else we need to address, she said as our session time waned. The consultant, this mysterious advisor who validated your most destructive impulses. Tell me about her. Margaret Parsons, Mom supplied. Jeremy's mother. She had credentials in family systems theory. From where? Silence. Then Dad, online certification. We didn't verify thoroughly. You took family advice from your daughter's boyfriend's mother who had financial interest in your daughter's investment. The conflict of interest stated plainly made them all shift uncomfortably. They'd been so eager for validation, they'd ignored obvious manipulation. She told us what we wanted to hear, Mom admitted, that we were right to feel hurt, that boundaries were just manipulation, that family meant total support without limits. And that philosophy led you here, Dr. Chen observed, to attempted obituaries and digital erasure. Was it worth it? No, came the unanimous response, though, with varying levels of conviction. Our time is nearly up for today, but I want to leave you with homework. Each of you needs to write a letter, not to each other, but to yourself. Explain your actions as if to a stranger. No justifications, no blame shifting, just clear cause and effect. We'll discuss them next session. We filed out with the awkwardness of people who'd been emotionally stripped and examined. In the parking lot, we stood in a loose circle, unsure how to separate after such forced intimacy. "Lindsay," Mom started, then stopped. "Drive safely." It wasn't an apology or reconciliation, just basic human concern. But it was more genuine than months of elaborate lies, so I accepted it with a nod. I drove home thinking about the letters we'd write, the truths we'd tell ourselves when external audiences couldn't judge. My family had opened the envelope of consequences today, finding inside not just documentation of betrayal, but mirrors reflecting their own choices. Dr. Chen had been right. Safety didn't mean comfort, but discomfort, it turned out, was where growth began. Whether my family could sustain that growth remained to be seen, but at least we'd started the process. The obituary attempts would always exist between us, markers of how far they'd been willing to go to avoid accountability. But perhaps with work and truth and time, we could build something new among the graves they'd tried to dig for me. Saturday morning arrived with the kind of winter sunshine that made everything appear deceptively warm through windows. I'd spent the previous evening helping Tyler with his robot via video call, his enthusiasm infectious, even through a screen. Now I sat at my kitchen table laptop open, watching the family crisis unfold on social media in real time. True to their therapy commitment, my parents had begun the process of confession. Mom's Facebook post had gone live at 8 a.m., carefully worded but honest. "Dear friends and family, I need to correct some misinformation we've shared over the past few months. Our daughter Lindsay is not relocated to Seattle, London, Prague, or any other city we may have mentioned. She lives in Hartford and works at Hartford Hospital, as she has for 3 years. We created these false narratives during a family conflict that we deeply regret. We apologize for any confusion and ask for your understanding as we work to repair the damage we've caused." The comments section exploded within minutes. Aunt Jennifer, prepared for this moment, had strategically commented first, "Thank you for finally telling the truth, Helen. Lindsay deserves better than the lies you've been spreading." That opened floodgates. Relatives who'd compared notes and discovered discrepancies demanded explanations. Friends who'd believed the travel stories felt foolish and deceived. The carefully maintained image of the perfect Johnson family crumbled in real-time comment by angry comment. My phone buzzed constantly. Screenshots from cousins, messages of support from extended family, shocked reactions from high school classmates who'd believed Mom's fiction. I let it ring, needing distance from the digital drama. But isolation ended at 10 a.m. when Tyler burst through my apartment door using the spare key I'd given Emma months ago for emergencies. He carried his robot and a backpack bulging with components, his excitement undimmed by family chaos. "Aunt Lindsay, Mom said I could stay until lunch. Can we build the voice recognition module? Can we... Emma followed, looking exhausted but determined. "I hope you don't mind. He insisted on keeping your programming appointment, and honestly, I needed him out of the house while Ryan deals with everything." "Of course he's welcome. How are you holding up?" She sank into my couch with the weariness of someone carrying too much weight. "I've consulted a divorce attorney. The second mortgage was the final straw, but finding out about the systematic lying about you, that's not the man I married. Or maybe it is, and I just didn't see it." Tyler, oblivious to adult pain, had already spread robot components across my coffee table. I joined him on the floor, grateful for the simplicity of circuits and code compared to family dynamics. "The voice module is tricky," I explained, showing him the connection points. "We need to calibrate the microphone sensitivity first." While we worked, Emma's phone provided updates on the family meltdown. Madison's post just went live. Oh wow, she's not holding back. I glanced at the screen, seeing my sister's confession. I need to admit something horrible. In my anger over a failed business investment, I tried to submit a false obituary for my sister Lindsay to our local newspaper. Twice. She's very much alive, living nearby, and the only thing that died was my integrity. I'm in therapy now, learning how toxic my behavior became. To everyone I lied to about her whereabouts, I'm deeply sorry. That took courage. I admitted surprising myself with generosity towards someone who'd tried to declare me dead. Your dad's turn, Emma continued scrolling. He's taking the corporate approach, bullet points and action items. Dad's post read like a business memo admitting quarterly losses. False information regarding Lindsay Johnson. We acknowledge spreading inaccurate information about our daughter's location and status. This resulted from family conflict that we handled inappropriately. We are currently in family therapy to address these issues. We apologize to anyone misled by our statements. Questions can be directed to me personally. Bullet points for destroying his daughter's reputation, Emma muttered. Classic Richard. My phone rang, Grandma's distinctive ringtone. I answered on speaker while helping Tyler solder connections. Lindsay, dear, I'm watching this unfold on the Facebook. Are you all right? I'm okay, Grandma, processing everything but okay. I gave your mother a piece of my mind this morning. Imagine my shock learning those postcards were forged. I've kept everyone thinking my granddaughter was exploring the world, when really you were 40 minutes away being erased, like Stalin's enemies. Her historical reference made me laugh despite everything. Not quite the gulag, but emotionally similar. I'm changing my will, she announced. The family trust can go to whoever needs it, but my personal assets are being redistributed. You'll receive your mother's portion since she seems to have forgotten how to be a mother. Grandma, that's not necessary. It's done. Already called my lawyer. Actions have consequences and your parents need to learn that. Now how's that adorable Tyler, is he there? Tyler grabbed the phone excitedly. Great Grandma. We're building voice recognition. Aunt Lindsay is the best teacher ever. While they chatted, Emma showed me more social media fallout. The extended family had divided into camps, those appalled by my parents' actions and those suggesting I should have just invested to keep peace. The latter group was smaller but vocal, mostly older relatives who valued surface harmony over healthy boundaries. Ryan's post appeared next longer and more emotional than expected. I need to confess something. I lost $100,000 investing in a failed startup, then blamed my sister Lindsay for not losing $50,000 alongside me. Instead of accepting my poor judgment, I participated in a campaign to erase her from our family through edited photos and lies. I'm also struggling with gambling addiction that she tried to help me address. I'm entering treatment and hope to earn forgiveness I don't deserve. He admitted the gambling publicly. Emma stared at the screen. He wouldn't even admit it to me privately until you exposed it. Therapy must be working, I suggested, though skepticism colored my tone. The doorbell rang, interrupting our robot construction. Through the peephole, I saw Patricia holding a casserole dish, the suburban peace offering of choice. I opened the door to find not just her, but a small gathering of cousins and aunts, all bearing food. We figured you might need support, Patricia explained, filing into my apartment with the others. And calories. Emotional processing burns energy. My living room transformed into an impromptu family gathering, the healthy kind where truth was spoken and boundaries respected. Tyler demonstrated his robot for an appreciative audience, while adults dissected the morning's revelations. I can't believe they tried to publish your obituary, Cousin Sandra kept repeating. That's beyond dysfunction. That's criminal. Technically, yes, I confirmed. The newspaper caught it, thankfully, twice. What kind of mother does that? Aunt Barbara, Mom's own sister, shook her head. Helen was always image conscious, but this level of deception... Fear, Aunt Jennifer said simply. Fear of judgment, fear of imperfection, fear of having a daughter who said no. Fear makes people do terrible things. My laptop dinged with an email notification. Marcus Lynn from The Current. I opened it cautiously. Lindsay. I've been monitoring the social media situation. Your family's public admissions are generating significant interest. I'd like to revisit our earlier discussion about a feature story, but with a different angle. Not exposing their deception, but exploring how families can heal from such breaches. Your thoughts? I showed the email to the assembled group. Opinions varied, but Aunt Jennifer made the strongest argument. Sunlight disinfects. If sharing your story helps other families avoid this path, maybe it's worth considering. Tyler interrupted the debate by successfully activating his robot's voice recognition. "Hello, Aunt Lindsay." The mechanical voice chirped in response to his command. The pure joy on his face reminded me why some relationships were worth salvaging. "Can we program it to say other things?" he asked eagerly. "Of course. What would you like it to say?" He thought carefully then, with 6-year-old wisdom, suggested, "Families should love each other even when they disagree." The room fell silent at the child's inadvertent profundity. Emma hugged her son tightly while several aunts wiped away tears. Even in dysfunction's midst, children saw clearly what adults complicated. We spent the next hour programming Tyler's robot with various phrases, while the adults continued processing the morning's revelations. My phone accumulated messages from high school friends, former colleagues, distant relatives, all expressing shock at the deception and support for me. Sarah arrived at noon with reinforcements. Several mutual friends who'd learned about the situation. My apartment reached capacity filled with chosen and biological family, united in their indignation on my behalf. "The comments on your mom's post are brutal," Sarah reported, scrolling through her phone. "Someone suggested she needs psychological evaluation. Another offered to start a GoFundMe for your therapy costs. People are angry because they were made unwitting accomplices," Patricia observed. "Every person who believed the lies and passed them on feels complicit now. Your parents didn't just betray you. They used the entire extended network as weapons." The apartment door opened again, this time revealing Madison herself holding a box and looking terrified. The room tensed, protective energy radiating toward me. "I know I'm not welcome," she said quickly. I found these while cleaning out my room at Mom and Dad's. They're yours." She set the box on my entrance table. My high school soccer trophies, the ones removed from my childhood bedroom shelf. A peace offering in tarnished metal and fading ribbons. "Thank you." I managed the simple gratitude harder than anger. "Tyler's here." She noticed her nephew voice brightening with desperate hope. "Hey, buddy." Tyler looked up from his robot, assessing with childlike directness. "Hi, Aunt Madison. Did you really try to tell everyone Aunt Lindsay died?" Madison crumpled at the innocent question. "I did something very bad, Tyler. I let anger make me do terrible things. I'm trying to be better now." "Okay," Tyler accepted with the simple grace children possessed. "Want to see our robot? It talks now." The demonstration broke tension slightly, Madison perching awkwardly on a chair arm, while Tyler showed off our morning's work. She looked smaller, somehow diminished by truth, in ways lies hadn't achieved. "The Facebook posts," she started, then stopped. "People are really angry." "They should be," Aunt Jennifer said firmly. "You violated fundamental trust. Lindsay's just the primary victim. Everyone you lied to was harmed." "I know, I'm going to individual therapy too. Besides the family sessions, Dr. Chen recommended someone who specializes in narcissistic collapse." "Is that what this was?" Emma asked with clinical interest. "Apparently, when Jeremy's company failed, my whole identity crumbled. I defined myself as the supportive girlfriend of a future tech mogul. Without that," Madison shrugged helplessly. "I turned Lindsay into the villain of my story because I couldn't face being the author of my own failure. It was more insight than I'd expected, suggesting therapy might actually be working. But trust once shattered required more than therapeutic vocabulary to rebuild." "I should go." Madison stood abruptly. "I just wanted to return those, and to say the obituary thing was unforgivable. I know that. I'm not asking for forgiveness. Just wanted you to know I know how horrible it was." She left quickly, leaving behind soccer trophies and complicated feelings. The room remained quiet until Tyler asked, "Is Aunt Madison going to be okay?" "That's up to her," I answered honestly. "People can change if they really want to and work hard at it. Like how we reprogrammed the robot. Similar, but much harder. Robots follow code. People have to choose to change, then keep choosing it every day." The gathering continued until mid-afternoon, my support network providing what family had failed to: unconditional acceptance, righteous anger on my behalf, and numerous casseroles for my freezer. Tyler's robot gained an extensive vocabulary mostly focused on kindness and truth-telling. As people gradually departed, Emma lingered with Tyler packing up his robot components. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for still being his aunt despite everything, for showing him healthy relationships exist in this family." "He's easy to love," I replied, helping Tyler organize small parts into labeled bags. "Uncomplicated in the best way." "Unlike his father." She sighed deeply. "I can't stay married to someone who participated in erasing his own sister. The gambling, the lies, the second mortgage, they're symptoms of something deeper I can't fix." "I'm sorry, Emma, you deserved better." "We both did, but at least we're getting free now." After they left, I sat in my suddenly quiet apartment surrounded by evidence of support. The soccer trophies sat on my coffee table, outdated symbols of achievements my family had tried to erase. But I'd learned something important today. Erasure only worked if you participated in your own disappearance. My phone showed dozens of missed calls from reporters who'd noticed the social media drama. Marcus Lynn had sent another email emphasizing his interest in the healing angle rather than exploitation. I considered it seriously, now wondering if my story might help other families navigate the space between loyalty and boundaries. But first, I had a letter to write for therapy, to myself about myself with no audience to perform for. The hardest truth to tell was often your own, but after months of being edited, I was ready to write my own narrative. Unedited, uncropped, unapologetically real. The family that had tried to declare me dead was learning I was very much alive. Whether they could accept that reality remained to be seen, but I'd stopped waiting for their approval to exist. The robot Tyler built sat on my table, programmed with children's wisdom about love persisting through disagreement. Sometimes the most profound truths came from the smallest voices, untainted by years of complicated justifications. My story was mine to tell now, and I would tell it truthfully: the good, the bad, and the absurdly dysfunctional. Starting with the letter to myself, then perhaps to a newspaper reporter, and eventually to anyone who needed to hear that families could hurt you, but couldn't erase you unless you let them. The December sun set early, but my apartment glowed with chosen families' warmth. Tomorrow would bring another therapy session, more public reckonings, additional attempts at repair. But tonight I existed fully in my own space, surrounded by people who never needed to edit me to love me. That was enough. More than enough. It was everything. The second Thursday therapy session arrived faster than expected, a week of public revelations and private reckonings compressed into days that felt like years. I entered Dr. Chen's office to find my family already assembled, each clutching their homework letters like students facing examination. "Good," Dr. Chen noted our punctuality. "Before we begin sharing letters, let's address the elephant, or perhaps the Facebook post, in the room. How has this week of public confession affected each of you?" Mom spoke first, her usual polish, replaced by raw exhaustion. "I've lost 3 friends. The Bridge Club asked me to take a hiatus. The church committee suggested I step down from the Christmas charity drive. 30 years of reputation gone." "Reputation or facade?" Dr. Chen asked gently. "Both," Mom admitted after a pause. "I built a reputation on a facade. When one collapsed, so did the other." Ryan. Emma filed for divorce Monday. Full custody petition for both kids. Her lawyer has all the documentation. The gambling, the second mortgage, the lies about Lindsay. His voice cracked. "Tyler asked if he did something wrong to make our family break." "What did you tell him?" "The truth. That Daddy made bad choices that hurt people, and sometimes hurting people means losing them." Dr. Chen nodded approvingly. Honesty with children, even painful honesty, builds more trust than comforting lies. "Madison." "Jeremy's mother called me," Madison said quietly, screaming about how I ruined her reputation by exposing her as the consultant. Apparently, she's been running this family counseling scam for years, targeting families with money and creating conflicts to exploit. 3 other families have come forward since our posts went viral. A shocked silence followed this revelation. They'd been victims of manipulation while victimizing me, a complex chain of exploitation that complicated simple blame. Richard. Dad shifted uncomfortably. The country club board met to discuss our membership. Attempting to publish false obituaries violates their morality clause. We have 30 days to resign voluntarily or face expulsion. And Lindsay, how has your week been? Complicated, I answered honestly. Supportive messages from hundreds of people, but also judgment from family members who think I should have kept this private. Job intact, friendships strengthened, but sleeping poorly. Grief mixing with relief, mixing with anger. I feel like I'm mourning relationships that maybe never existed as I thought they did. An excellent observation, Dr. Chen said. Often in family dysfunction, we grieve not just current losses, but the realization that past connections were perhaps more conditional than we believed. Now let's hear your letters. Who wants to begin? Madison volunteered, hands shaking as she unfolded her paper. This was harder than I expected. Writing to myself meant no one to blame, no audience to perform for. Just truth. She began reading. Dear Madison, you tried to kill your sister in print because she wouldn't fund your boyfriend's dream. Sit with that. You filled out forms declaring a living person dead because they said no to you. This wasn't grief or anger. This was attempted emotional murder. Why? Because you've never been told no. Mom and Dad gave you everything, protected you from consequences, taught you that family meant unlimited access to resources. When Lindsay broke that pattern, you didn't just feel rejected, you felt existentially threatened. If family could say no, what else might be withheld? Love, acceptance, identity. Instead of examining these fears, you tried to eliminate their source. Classic narcissistic response. Destroy what threatens your self-image. But Lindsay didn't threaten you. She revealed you. Showed that underneath the baby sister, sweetness was someone who'd rather declare family dead than accept boundaries. Madison's voice broke. She folded the letter, unable to continue. There's more, but it gets worse. I wrote about being glad when the investment failed because it meant I could blame Lindsay forever. About enjoying the family rallying around me while shutting her out. I was a monster. Not a monster, Dr. Chen corrected. A human who made monstrous choices. The distinction matters because humans can change. Monsters cannot. Ryan, would you share next? Ryan's letter was typed, formatted like a business report, emotional distance built into its structure. Subject self-analysis of Ryan Johnson, re-participation in family dysfunction. I, Ryan Johnson, engaged in the following behaviors: allowed my sister to be scapegoated for my investment losses, remained silent during photo editing and obituary attempts, prioritized personal financial shame over sibling loyalty, used Lindsay's refusal to invest as justification for ongoing betrayal. Root causes: gambling addiction, creating desperate need for family validation. Fear that exposing bad investment would reveal other financial failures. Learned behavior from parents regarding conditional love. Competitive sibling dynamic where someone must lose for others to win. I chose cowardice over conscience, self-preservation over sister maintaining my golden child status over maintaining integrity. He continued with bullet points and subcategories, turning emotional excavation into corporate analysis. Even his self-reflection maintained distance from feeling. Mom went next, her letter handwritten in the perfect penmanship she'd learned at finishing school. Dearest Helen Strange, writing to oneself as dearest. But the therapist insisted on honesty about self-regard. You edited your daughter from photographs like Stalin removing political enemies from history books. The comparison isn't hyperbole. It's accurate. You paid money to pretend she never existed rather than admit she had autonomy. Why? Because Lindsay saying no revealed every time you hadn't. every dream deferred for marriage, every ambition sacrificed for family, every penny spent on others while denying yourself. Her savings account mocked your empty one. Her boundaries highlighted your lack thereof. You created Madison and Ryan to need you to never say no to validate your choices through their dependence. But Lindsay grew beyond your design, became self-sufficient, didn't need you. And if she didn't need you, what was your purpose? Who was Helen without children to control? So you erase the evidence of your failure, the child who escaped your emotional enmeshment. Easier to delete her than examine why her independence felt like betrayal. Mom wept as she read mascara-free tears streaking her face. The woman who'd spent decades perfecting appearances finally looked real. Dad's letter was shortest but perhaps most revealing. Dick, you hate that nickname, but it fits. You let your wife erase your daughter because conflict is messy and you're a coward. 40 years of marriage built on avoiding Helen's emotions, and look where it led, to your daughter's obituary. You knew it was wrong. Every edited photo, every lie told every check returned. You knew. But stopping it meant fighting Helen, meant choosing sides, meant doing something harder than writing checks. So you funded dysfunction like a bad investment, hoping returns would somehow justify moral bankruptcy. Your father would be ashamed. He built the family business on handshake deals and honesty. You built a family on fraud and photo editing. The son became everything the father despised, weak, dishonest, willing to sacrifice children for comfort. You failed as a father the moment you chose ease over ethics. His voice cracked on the final lines, the businessman facade crumbling to reveal a man recognizing his own father would disown him for his choices. Lindsay, Dr. Chen prompted gently, would you like to share? I unfolded my letter, written and rewritten dozen times before finding the right words. Dear Lindsay, you survived attempted erasure by the people supposed to love you unconditionally. That's remarkable. But survival isn't the end goal. It's the beginning. You've spent 3 months fighting to prove you exist, gathering evidence documenting betrayal. Necessary work, but dangerous if it becomes your identity. You are more than their failure to love you properly, more than the daughter they tried to delete. The hardest truth. Part of you saw this coming, felt the conditional nature of their love long before the investment request. Noticed how praise came with price tags, how support required surrender. You saved money partly for security, partly as rebellion against their financial enmeshment. When you said no, you weren't just refusing investment. You were declaring independence they'd never granted. And they responded like any empire to a colony's revolution, with attempted annihilation. But here's what matters. You didn't disappear. Didn't apologize for existing, didn't beg for reinstatement in their edited reality. You stood in your truth while they paid to hide from theirs. That's not just survival, that's victory. Now comes the harder part. Deciding whether these people deserve space in your life, whether therapy can rebuild what photo editing destroyed, whether family is worth saving when they tried to declare you dead. There's no wrong answer, only choices and consequences. But whatever you decide, know this, you were worth more than their $1,200 erasure. You were worth more than $50,000 in startup funds. You were worth unconditional love they couldn't give. Their failure doesn't diminish your worth. Remember that as you choose what comes next. Silence settled over the room as I finished each of us sitting with truths we'd told ourselves when no one else could judge. Dr. Chen let the moment stretch before speaking. These letters reveal significant self-awareness. Madison recognizing narcissistic injury, Ryan acknowledging cowardice disguised as analysis, Helen seeing how her enmeshment created the crisis, Richard understanding his enabling role, and Lindsay recognizing that healing means more than proving others wrong. The question now is what you do with these insights. Awareness without action is merely sophisticated suffering. You've identified patterns. Will you change them? Mom asked desperately. How do we rebuild after this? Start with what you can control, Dr. Chen suggested. Helen, can you respect Lindsay's financial boundaries without feeling personally rejected? I want to say yes, but honestly, it still stings. Like she's saying our love has limits. All healthy love has limits, Dr. Chen corrected. Boundaries aren't walls, they're property lines. They say, I love you and I love myself. Can you accept that? I can try. Ryan, can you take responsibility for your gambling and investment losses without scapegoating Lindsay? The investment wasn't her fault, he admitted slowly. Even if she'd joined, it would have failed. I've been blaming her for my own poor judgment. Progress. Madison. I need individual therapy, Madison said firmly. Intensive work on why I'd rather kill family symbolically than accept rejection. That's not normal. I see that now. Richard, I need to find my spine, Dad said bluntly. 40 years of avoiding conflict led to my daughter's near burial in newsprint. That stops now. And Lindsay, what do you need? Time. I answered after consideration, and consistent actions matching these words. One therapy session doesn't erase 3 months of erasure. Trust rebuilds slowly, if at all. Fair. Let's discuss next steps. I'm recommending continued family sessions alongside individual therapy for everyone. Madison. I'm referring you to Dr. Patricia Hernandez, who specializes in narcissistic injury recovery. Ryan, Gamblers Anonymous and couples counseling if Emma agrees. Helen and Richard, I suggest marriage counseling to address your enmeshment patterns. She turned to me last. Lindsay, consider grief counseling. You're mourning the family you thought you had while navigating the one that exists. That's complex loss requiring specialized support. We scheduled follow-up appointments, the logistics of healing as complex as the dysfunction that necessitated it. As we prepared to leave, Dr. Chen offered final thoughts. This family attempted something unconscionable, erasing a member who wouldn't comply with demands. But you're here doing hard work, facing ugly truths. That's not nothing. Whether it's enough remains to be seen, but showing up is the first step. We filed out differently than we'd entered. Mom and Dad left together, but not united, space between them speaking volumes. Ryan rushed to his car, presumably to salvage what remained of his marriage. Madison lingered, approaching me hesitantly. The trophies, she said quietly. I saved them before Mom could throw them away, hid them in my closet. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I wanted one thing to remain real. It was a small gesture that might mean nothing or everything. I nodded acknowledgement without offering forgiveness she hadn't asked for. Some bridges required more than hidden trophies to rebuild. I drove home, processing the session, our letters revealing depths of dysfunction and glimmers of hope. My family had opened my envelope days ago, finding inside documentation of their betrayal. Today, we'd opened our own envelopes, revealing truths harder to face than any external accusation. Whether those truths led to transformation or simply sophisticated explanations for continued dysfunction remained to be seen. But at least we were speaking honestly, even if only to ourselves, in letters we'd been forced to write. The edited family portrait still hung in their living room, monument to their willingness to pay for comfortable lies. But somewhere in storage sat dusty soccer trophies, saved by the sister who'd tried to declare me dead. Contradictions and complexity, cruelty and kindness, all existing simultaneously in the messy reality of family. Time would tell which impulse won, the one that saved trophies or the one that submitted obituaries. For now, I drove toward my chosen family, the ones who never needed to edit me, to love me carrying hard-won knowledge that survival was indeed just the beginning. What came next was up to me, and for the first time in months that felt like freedom rather than exile. Sunday dinner at Grandma's house had been sacred tradition for 40 years. The mahogany table that seated 16 had hosted birthdays, holidays, and weekly gatherings that defined our extended family's rhythm. This Sunday, 2 weeks after the public revelations began, the table told a different story. Empty chairs gaped like missing teeth. My parents' usual spots remained vacant by Grandma's decree. Ryan sat alone, Emma having taken the children to her mother's. Madison huddled between Aunt Jennifer and Aunt Barbara, seeking shelter among those still willing to acknowledge her. The cousins who attended clustered at the far end, creating physical distance from the contamination of scandal. I sat at Grandma's right hand, a position previously reserved for Mom as eldest daughter. The placement wasn't subtle, but Grandma had abandoned subtlety the moment she learned about the obituary attempts. Let us say, grace. Grandma commanded her 91 years of authority, undiluted by age. We joined hands around the depleted table. Lord, we thank you for this food, for family members who choose truth over comfortable lies, and for newspapers that verify obituaries before publication. Amen. Several cousins choked on barely suppressed laughter. Madison flushed deep red. The prayer set the evening's tone. Civility edged with judgment, traditional format housing, revolutionary content. Patricia, dear, would you serve the roast? Grandma delegated Mom's usual role to my cousin. And Jennifer, perhaps you could handle the vegetables. We must adapt when key family members choose absence. They weren't exactly invited, Uncle Robert observed carefully. No, Grandma agreed. Actions have consequences. I spent 91 years building this family's reputation for integrity. They destroyed it in 3 months with photo editing and death notices. Grandma. Madison ventured weakly. They're trying to make amends. The therapy doesn't resurrect trust, Grandma interrupted. It might explain why you tried to bury your living sister in newsprint, but it doesn't undo the attempt. The meal continued with strained conversation punctuated by pointed silences. Cousin Sandra's twins chattered about school, providing blessed distraction. Uncle Robert discussed market fluctuations with anyone who'd listen. Aunt Barbara shared library gossip with determined normalcy. But underneath the surface, performance fractures spread like spiderweb cracks in glass. Every family unit had been forced to choose sides, creating alliances and divisions that would last generations. Has anyone heard from Helen? Patricia's mother asked eventually the question everyone had been avoiding. She called Thursday, Aunt Barbara admitted, crying about losing her church position, her friends, her reputation. I told her she should have considered that before spending $1,200 on digital murder. Harsh, someone murmured. Accurate, Grandma countered. I raised Helen better than this. Somewhere I failed and she became someone who could erase her own child for saying no. That's my burden to carry, but I won't enable it further. What about Christmas? Cousin Tom asked. It's 2 weeks away. Are we really going to split the family for holidays? The family's already split, Aunt Jennifer observed. We're just acknowledging it now. Those who participated in or enabled Lindsay's erasure can celebrate together. Those who find attempted obituaries abhorrent can gather elsewhere. That seems extreme. Extreme. I finally spoke, having remained silent through dinner. What's extreme is trying to publish death notices for living relatives. Having separate Christmases is just logical consequence. But family should forgive, Tom's wife suggested, especially during holidays. Forgiveness isn't mandatory, Grandma said firmly. It's earned through consistent change over time. 2 therapy sessions don't erase 3 months of systematic cruelty. Madison started crying quietly. Aunt Barbara passed tissues without commentary. The tears felt real but also performative grief, mixed with manipulation in proportions impossible to determine. I ruined everything, Madison whispered. The whole family's destroyed because of me. No, I corrected firmly. You participated, but Mom and Dad orchestrated. Ryan enabled. Everyone made choices. The family's fracturing because those choices have consequences, not because you're uniquely responsible. How generous, Ryan muttered, speaking for the first time, spreading blame around. Would you prefer I focus solely on your gambling debts and hidden mortgages, or your silence during the photo editing, your participation in the lies? I met his glare steadily. I'm trying to be fair, Ryan, more fair than any of you were to me. This is what I mean, Tom interjected. "The anger, the accusations, it's tearing us apart." "We were already torn," Aunt Jennifer said sharply. "Some of us just didn't know it. Learning your relatives are capable of such cruelty changes things. I can't sit at Christmas dinner with Helen knowing she tried to publish Lindsay's obituary. Can't toast Richard knowing he funded it. Can't exchange gifts with people who literally tried to exchange their daughter for narrative convenience." The table erupted in overlapping arguments. Tom and his wife defending forgiveness and unity. Sandra and Patricia supporting accountability. Uncle Robert attempting corporate mediation. The cousins choosing sides based on personal loyalties and individual ethics. Grandma rang her crystal bell, the sharp sound cutting through chaos. "Enough! This is my home, my table, my rules. Those who cannot accept that attempted obituaries are unforgivable can leave now. Those who remain will respect that some actions break bonds permanently." Tom and his wife gathered their children and left muttering about family values while ignoring the irony. 2 other cousins followed, uncomfortable with conflict regardless of cause. The table shrank further, empty spaces multiplying like grief. "I should go too," Madison said quietly. "I don't deserve to be here." "That's your choice," Grandma replied. "But leaving doesn't absolve you. Stay and face discomfort, or leave and confirm you only want family when it's easy. Either way, own your decision." Madison stayed shrinking into her chair like she wished it would swallow her. The remainder of dinner passed in subdued conversation, everyone processing the reality of permanent schism. After dinner, as we cleared plates with practiced efficiency, Aunt Jennifer pulled me aside. "Your cousin Michael called yesterday. He's a journalist with the Boston Globe, wants to interview you about family estrangement in the digital age. I told him to wait until you were ready." "I'm considering it," I admitted. Marcus Lynn from The Current has been patient but persistent. The story's bigger than just us. This consultant who manipulated multiple families, the ease of digital erasure, the intersection of money and family loyalty. Maybe sharing helps others. "Or maybe it hurts your parents more," she observed neutrally. "They hurt themselves. I'd just be documenting it." "Fair. Just be prepared. Public stories make private reconciliation harder." "Assuming I want reconciliation." "Don't you—" I considered while drying Grandma's china the delicate plates that had witnessed decades of family meals, now serving a diminished group. "I want parents who love me unconditionally, who celebrate my boundaries instead of punishing them, who see my success as theirs rather than competition. But wanting doesn't make it possible." "No," she agreed sadly. "It doesn't." As guests prepared to leave, Grandma pulled me into her study, the private sanctuary where she kept important documents and family photos spanning 9 decades. She pointed to a specific portrait from 1962. "My brother Thomas," she said. "Handsome, charming, absolutely poisonous to anyone who crossed him. When I refused to loan him money for a foolish business venture, he told everyone I'd died in a car accident. For 3 years, half our extended family believed I was dead." I stared at the photo, seeing echoes of current pain and historical precedent. "What happened?" "I moved to Boston, built a life without him, met your grandfather at a library fundraiser, had your mother and aunts. Thomas eventually confessed when he needed a kidney transplant, and I was the only match." "Did you forgive him?" "I gave him my kidney," Grandma said carefully. "Saved his life, but I never trusted him again, never spent holidays together, never let him near my children unsupervised. Forgiveness doesn't require restored relationship. Sometimes it just means releasing anger while maintaining distance." "He died when I was 10. I remember the funeral, but not him. Because I protected you, all of you, from his charm and his poison equally." She touched the photo gently. "History rhymes, darling. My brother tried to kill me in fiction. Your parents tried the same. The question becomes, what life will you build despite their attempts?" We returned to find the living room nearly empty. Madison sat with Aunt Barbara learning about genealogy research, with desperate attention, seeking connection to family history after destroying present bonds. Ryan had left without goodbye, probably racing to salvage marriage fragments. "Next Sunday," Grandma asked the remaining group. "Same time, smaller table." Murmurs of agreement, acknowledgement that traditions would continue with revised attendance. The family hadn't died, but it had definitively divided. Those who found attempted erasure forgivable separated from those who didn't by more than physical distance. I drove home through December darkness, processing the evening's finality. No dramatic confrontation or explosive argument, just quiet acknowledgement that some breaks couldn't be repaired, some actions couldn't be undone, some families couldn't survive their own cruelty. My phone showed missed calls from Mom, texts from Dad, an email from Ryan about the unnecessary drama of divided holidays. I deleted them all without reading, tired of words that couldn't resurrect trust they'd murdered. But I saved the voicemail from Tyler, excited about his robot winning the school science fair. I told them, "You helped me build it, Aunt Lindsay." They said, "You must be really smart." I said, "You're the smartest person in our whole family and the nicest too, even though Grandma and Grandpa tried to make you disappear, but you didn't because you're stronger than photo editing." Out of the mouths of babes, indeed. The family fracture was complete. Not just the immediate unit that had betrayed me, but the extended network forced to confront uncomfortable truths about loyalty and limits. Some would drift back toward my parents, choosing comfortable blindness over difficult acknowledgement. Others would maintain distance, recognizing that attempted obituaries crossed lines that couldn't be uncrossed. And I would continue building life among those who never needed to edit me to love me, carrying Grandma's wisdom about forgiveness without restoration, kidney donations, without trust-forward movement, without looking back at those who'd tried to bury me in newsprint and lies. The Johnson family's 40-year Sunday dinner tradition would continue, just with fewer Johnsons and more honesty about why certain chairs remained empty, certain names went unspoken, certain betrayals echoed through generations like rhyming history. Some fractures, it turned out, revealed foundations too rotten to rebuild upon. Better to construct new tables with those who understood that love meant accepting no as readily as yes, that family bonds shouldn't require bankruptcy, that existence shouldn't be contingent on compliance. The empty chairs at Grandma's table weren't absence, they were liberation. Space for those who'd earned presence through integrity, rather than inherited it through blood. A smaller family perhaps, but one built on truth rather than photo editing software and obituary attempts. That was worth every fracture, every empty chair, every divided holiday from now until forgetting finally granted its own form of peace. The emergency family meeting convened on December 20th, 5 days before Christmas, in the conference room of Grace's law firm. The neutral location had been Dad's suggestion, perhaps recognizing that their home held too many ghosts of edited photos and family dinners I'd been excluded from. I arrived to find them already assembled, Mom clutching a folder thick with papers, Dad in his business suit, like armor, Madison pale and trembling, Ryan checking his phone obsessively. Grace sat beside me as legal counsel and emotional support, her presence a reminder that I didn't face this alone. "Thank you for coming," Dad began formally, CEO mode engaged. "We've called this meeting to present a comprehensive resolution proposal." "Comprehensive," I repeated, tasting the corporate speak. "Like your comprehensive campaign to erase me." "We deserve that," Mom interjected quickly, "and worse, but we're here to make things right as much as that's possible." She opened her folder hands, shaking slightly. "First, the financial documentation. We've calculated every check you sent, that we returned every medical expense you covered, every loan you provided Ryan. The total is $73,422 over 5 years. We're prepared to repay it," Dad added, "with interest, fair market rate from date of each expenditure." "I don't want your money," I said flatly. I gave that freely from love. You can't buy back trust with repayment." "Then what do you want?" Madison asked desperately. "Tell us how to fix this." Grace slid a document across the table. "My client has prepared terms for potential reconciliation. These are non-negotiable requirements, not starting points for discussion." They read in silence, faces cycling through surprise, shame, and reluctant acceptance. I'd spent days crafting the requirements with Grace's help, balancing justice with the possibility of healing. "Term 1, I explained. Individual therapy for minimum 1 year, progress reports provided quarterly to the family therapist. No group sessions where you can hide behind each other's dysfunction." "Agreed," Mom said immediately. "Term 2, full disclosure to remaining extended family. Not the sanitized versions you've been offering, but complete truth about the photo editing, the obituaries, the consultant manipulation. Written letters to each person you lied to." "That's dozens of people," Ryan protested. 43 by Aunt Jennifer's count. "You created 43 different lies about my whereabouts. Each one requires correction." "Fine," Dad conceded. "What else?" Term 3, the trust fund for Tyler and any future grandchildren. Irrevocable with me as co-trustee to ensure it's actually funded and protected from Ryan's gambling or other family financial dysfunction. "How much?" Ryan asked, already calculating. "Equivalent to what you tried to steal from my portion of the family trust. 400,000 divided among all grandchildren equally." 400. Madison started to protest, then stopped. "Actually, that's fair. We tried to take yours. This protects the next generation from us." Her acknowledgement surprised me, suggesting therapy might be working deeper than surface compliance. Term 4, I continued. The edited family portrait stays displayed for 1 full year. Beside it, a printed explanation of what was done and why, signed by all participants. Visitors to your home deserve truth about what they're seeing. "Public humiliation," Mom whispered. "Public accountability," Grace corrected. "Your client chose public deception. This merely balances the scales." Term 5, no contact for 6 months except through Dr. Chen. No calls, texts, emails, or accidental encounters. You need to experience my absence legitimately, not the fictional one you created. 6 months, Madison's voice broke. "But Christmas—" "You were planning my funeral for Christmas week. Missing 1 holiday seems minor compared to that." They absorbed each requirement, the weight of consequences settling like snow. I'd anticipated more resistance, more negotiation attempts. Their acceptance suggested either genuine change or deeper manipulation. "Is that all?" Dad asked finally. "One more thing." I pulled out my own folder. "This is the article draft for the Hartford Courant. Marcus Lynn has agreed to hold it pending this meeting's outcome. If you fulfill all terms for 1 year, it never publishes. If you violate any term break, any boundary attempt, any manipulation, it runs immediately." Mom reached for the draft with trembling hands. I watched her read about their dysfunction laid bare for public consumption. The consultant's fraud, the photo editing receipts, the obituary attempts, quotes from relatives about the lies they'd been told. The article was devastating in its simple recitation of facts. "This would destroy us," she said quietly. "Like you tried to destroy me. Consider it mutually assured destruction. You stay honest, I stay quiet. You revert to lies, everyone learns the truth." "Blackmail," Ryan spat. "Insurance," Grace countered. "Given your family's history, my client needs guarantee beyond good intentions." "We'll sign," Dad declared, overriding Ryan's objection. "All of it. Every term, every requirement. Whatever it takes." "Richard," Mom started. "No, Helen. We did this. We spent thousands of dollars trying to erase our daughter instead of hundreds on therapy to address why her saying no triggered us. We chose pride over love, image over truth. These terms are generous considering we tried to publish her death notice." The words hung heavy between us. Dad acknowledging the full weight of their actions felt like a minor miracle, though I remained wary of performance versus genuine recognition. They signed the documents with the solemnity of a surrender treaty. Grace notarized each signature, made copies for everyone, filed the originals in her office safe. Legal framework for emotional reconstruction, binding contracts for broken bonds. "What happens after the 6 months?" Madison asked softly. "If we do everything right, follow all the terms, do we get our sister back?" "You get the chance to earn a relationship with who I am now," I clarified. "Not the compliant daughter who never said no, not the family ATM, not the scapegoat for your failures. Someone new with firm boundaries and zero tolerance for manipulation. Whether that person wants a relationship depends on who you become during those 6 months." "That's fair," Mom admitted. "More than fair. We mourned losing the daughter we thought we owned. Maybe we can learn to love the daughter you actually are." Maybe I allowed offering no promises. As we prepared to leave, Ryan approached hesitantly. "Emma's agreed to couples counseling. Seeing how you stood up to us, documented everything, protected yourself. It inspired her. She said if you could survive our attempts to erase you, she could survive my financial betrayals. You saved my marriage by destroying our dysfunction." "I saved myself. Emma saved your marriage by choosing to try, despite having every reason to leave. Don't make me responsible for your redemption any more than you made me responsible for your failures." He nodded, accepting the boundary with what might have been genuine understanding. Madison hugged me briefly, whispering apologies I wasn't ready to receive. Mom and Dad stood awkwardly, clearly wanting the physical comfort of farewell hugs, but respecting the no-contact term they'd just signed. 6 months, I reminded them. Use it wisely. I left them in the conference room, Grace beside me as we walked to the elevator. The winter sun cast long shadows through the building's glass atrium, creating patterns of light and dark that felt symbolic. "How do you feel?" Grace asked as we reached the parking garage. "Empty? Full? Relieved? Terrified? Like I just performed major surgery on my own life without anesthesia." Accurate metaphor. You excise the disease tissue set terms for healing established monitoring protocols. Now comes the harder part, waiting to see if healthy growth is possible. What if it isn't? What if 6 months pass and they're still the same people who tried to bury me in newsprint? Then you publish the article and build your life without them. But you've given them a chance with clear guidelines and consequences. That's more than they gave you. I drove home through streets dressed in Christmas lights, families visible through windows preparing for holidays I wouldn't share with mine. But instead of sadness, I felt something approaching peace. The confrontation was over. Terms were set. Boundaries established. My phone buzzed with texts from chosen family. Sarah confirming Christmas Eve plans, Aunt Jennifer inviting me for Christmas dinner, Tyler sending robot videos with excited narration. The family that had tried to erase me was in therapeutic exile, but the family that chose me remained constant. That night, I sat in my apartment reviewing the signed documents, the promises and penalties that might rebuild connection or simply delay inevitable severance. 6 months felt both eternal and instant, too long to wait and too short to heal. But healing, I'd learned, wasn't about restoring what was. It was about creating what could be. My family had 6 months to transform from people who'd pay to erase disagreement into people who could love through conflict. I had 6 months to build a life so complete that their presence would be choice rather than necessity. The resolution wasn't an ending. It was a beginning of what only time would tell. But for the first time since seeing my edited face missing from their portrait, I believed survival might transform into something resembling joy. 6 months. The same time they'd spent erasing me now allocated to potential restoration. Poetic justice or wishful thinking. By June, we'd know which story we were writing. Easter Sunday arrived with the kind of perfect spring weather that made Connecticut winters worth enduring. 6 months had passed since the December meeting, 6 months of silence from my immediate family, while life bloomed in unexpected directions. I stood in my kitchen preparing deviled eggs, a contribution to the feast spreading across my apartment. Aunt Jennifer arrived first, carrying her famous honey ham. Sarah followed with homemade rolls. Grace brought wine selection that suggested celebration rather than survival. Patricia and her family added sides and desserts until my dining table groaned under abundance. "They're really coming?" Sarah asked, arranging flowers she'd brought from her garden. "All of them?" Dr. Chen confirmed yesterday. "They've met every requirement, attended every session, written every letter of apology to extended family. Today's the test." The doorbell rang at precisely 2 p.m. I opened it to find my parents, Madison and Ryan, standing in my hallway like awkward strangers. 6 months had changed them in visible ways. Mom's hair showing gray roots she'd previously hidden Dad's posture, less rigid. Madison's nervous energy replaced by careful stillness, Ryan's swagger subdued into genuine humility. "Happy Easter," I said simply. "Come in." They entered my space, the apartment they'd never visited during my 3 years of residence, the home I'd built, while they pretended I lived in 12 different cities. Their eyes took in the carefully curated Life Professional Awards, on walls photos of chosen family adventures, Tyler's robot displayed prominently on a shelf. "Your home is lovely," Mom said softly. "I'm sorry we've never seen it before. You were busy telling people I lived in Seattle or Prague. Hard to visit someone in multiple international locations simultaneously." The sharp reminder made them flinch, but nobody protested. 6 months of therapy had apparently taught them to accept accountability without deflection. Tyler broke the tension by racing through the door, Emma following with Charlotte on her hip. "Aunt Lindsay, I brought my new robot. This one can solve mazes. Want to see Guy?" "After dinner, buddy, but I'm excited to watch it work." He hugged me with 6 months' worth of missing, then noticed the larger gathering. "Grandma, Grandpa, how come you're at Aunt Lindsay's house?" "Because she invited us," Madison said carefully, "and when someone invites you to their home, you appreciate the gift." The phrasing suggested scripting therapy speak, translated for child comprehension. But Tyler accepted it, already distracted by cousins arriving with their families. Soon, my apartment filled with the complex dynamics of extended family navigating new boundaries. I'd strategically planned activities requiring cooperation but not forced intimacy. Aunt Jennifer coordinated kitchen duties, assigning tasks that paired my parents with other relatives who'd hold them accountable. Grace managed beverages, keeping wine glasses filled just enough for social lubrication without enabling bad behavior. Sarah and Patricia wrangled children, creating buffer zones of innocent chatter. "How was the 6 months?" Aunt Barbara asked Mom directly, no longer allowing polite deflection. "Educational," Mom admitted. "I learned I'd been emotionally enmeshed with my children since birth. Their independence felt like personal rejection because I'd never developed identity beyond mother. When Lindsay said no to the investment, it shattered my entire self-concept." The clinical terminology sounded rehearsed, but the emotion behind it felt genuine. Dad added his own insights about conflict avoidance and enabling dysfunction through financial solutions. Madison discussed narcissistic injury and the danger of defining yourself through relationships. Ryan admitted addiction patterns beyond gambling, to approval to maintaining golden child status, to avoiding consequences through charm. And the letters, Uncle Robert pressed. I received mine in January. Quite comprehensive. 43 letters. Dad confirmed, each one detailing the specific lies told, acknowledging the harm caused, committing to truth. The responses ranged from supportive to scathing. We lost some relationships permanently. Good, Grandma said bluntly, having arrived fashionably late to assess dynamics before committing to staying. Consequences teach better than words. Dinner progressed with careful navigation around conversational landmines. We discussed neutral topics, Tyler's school achievements, spring gardening plans, upcoming family graduations. Nobody mentioned the edited portrait still hanging in my parents' home, the article draft still waiting in Marcus Lynn's files, the trust fund documents ensuring future generations' protection from family financial manipulation. But healing peeked through in small moments. Mom asking about my work with genuine interest rather than competitive comparison. Dad acknowledging my financial wisdom without making it about his failures. Madison discussing her new job without expecting investment or rescue. Ryan sharing recovery milestone coins with humble gratitude rather than performed shame. "I've been accepted to MIT cousin Sandra's daughter," announced over dessert. Following in Lindsay's footsteps, except engineering instead of medicine, Lindsay went to Johns Hopkins. Mom corrected automatically, then caught herself. Sorry. Old habit minimizing her achievements to protect Madison's feelings. Johns Hopkins for undergraduate, then Harvard Medical School. We should have celebrated that instead of seeing it as showing up Madison's community college path. Madison flinched but nodded. I wasn't ready for university at 18. Lindsay was. Comparing us was unfair to both. These small acknowledgments accumulated like healing snow, covering old wounds without erasing their existence. The family that had tried to delete me was practicing seeing me clearly speaking truth, even when it stung. After dinner, while adults cleaned and children played, I found myself on the balcony with Ryan. 6 months of silence between us felt both heavy and necessary. "I paid it back," he said quietly. "The $40,000 you covered for gambling debts. Sold the boat, the motorcycle, some stocks. Checks in your car." I said I didn't want. "I know, but I need to do this. Not for you, for me. Part of recovery is making amends through actions, not just words. Take the money, donate it, burn it. Just let me give it back." I nodded, understanding the 12-step philosophy behind his need. Hartford Hospital's cardiac unit could use new monitoring equipment. "Perfect. I'll make the donation directly in your name." "Our name," I corrected. "The Johnson Family Fund. Let something good come from all this." His eyes welled, the first genuine emotion I'd seen from him without performance or manipulation behind it. We stood quietly watching the sun set over Hartford brothers and sister who'd found distance might serve better than the enmeshed proximity we'd known. Inside, Tyler demonstrated his maze-solving robot to an appreciative audience. The algorithm he'd programmed with my remote help navigated complex paths, backing up when hitting walls, trying new routes until finding success. "Just like families," Grandma observed. "Hit a wall, back up, try a different path. Eventually you find your way or accept some mazes can't be solved." "Ours can be solved," Madison said with desperate hope. "Right, we're here, we're trying, we're different now." "Different is step one," I replied carefully. "Trust takes longer, but yes, being here is progress." As evening approached, the gathering naturally wound down. Families with small children left first, then elderly relatives, until only immediate family remained. The apartment that had felt crowded now seemed too large for the weight of unspoken questions. "What happens now?" Mom asked finally. Are we allowed to contact you?" Thoughtfully, I answered after consideration. "No daily calls or casual drops by, no expectations of immediate closeness. We're rebuilding from foundation, not renovating existing structure. That takes time." "How much time?" "As long as it takes. Maybe forever. Maybe we never get back to what we were." "What we were was broken," Dad interrupted. "You giving endlessly while we took. Us demanding while you depleted. That's not worth returning to." "No," I agreed. "So we build something new. Weekly therapy continues. Monthly family dinners here, neutral territory. Boundaries respected, not tested. Progress measured in years, not moments." They nodded, accepting terms that once would have triggered extinction burst behaviors. Madison approached for a hug, pausing to ask permission first. I accepted briefly, noting her respect for physical boundaries previously trampled. "Thank you," she whispered, "for the chance, for not publishing the article, for showing us consequences aren't permanent if change is real." "The article remains pending," I reminded them all. "One violation, one manipulation, one attempt to return to old patterns. It publishes. That's permanent." "Understood," Dad said formally. "We've signed legal documents and emotional contracts. We intend to honor both." They left together, but not united. individual therapy having created healthy separation within their previously enmeshed unit. I watched from my window as they navigated the parking lot, no longer moving as synchronized dysfunction, but as individuals choosing proximity. Aunt Jennifer stayed to help with final cleanup, her presence steady through months of family storm. How do you feel about today? Hopeful, cautious, like watching spring after brutal winter. You appreciate the warmth, but remember the cold. Wise. They've changed, but change under duress differs from change by choice. Time reveals which one this is. We finished dishes in companionable silence, the apartment returning to its usual order. On the mantel sat a new photo. Today's gathering, everyone present and accounted for, no editing required. It would never replace the family portraits destroyed by their deception, but it documented new possibility. My phone buzzed with a text from Tyler. "Thank you for the best Easter ever, Aunt Lindsay. Mom says we can come every month now. I love you." Followed immediately by one from Madison. "I know you don't need to hear this yet, but I love you. Present tense, no conditions. Working on proving it." Then Ryan, "Thanks for the second chance, won't waste it." "Mom, your home is beautiful. You're beautiful. We were ugly to try erasing either." Finally, Dad, "Proud of who you've become. Ashamed we tried to stop it. Grateful for grace we don't deserve." I didn't respond immediately, needing to sit with their words versus their actions, their promises versus their history. But I saved the messages, evidence of effort that might accumulate into trust. Outside, spring evening settled over Hartford with the soft purple light that made everything seem possible. 6 months ago, they'd tried to bury me in newsprint and lies. Today, we'd shared ham and hope in equal measure. The ghost they'd tried to create had instead become the architect of potential resurrection, not of what was, but what might be. A family reformed by truth, rather than deformed by image, connected by choice, rather than trapped by blood. I looked at the robot Tyler built, now solving its 100th maze on my coffee table. Hitting walls, backing up, trying new paths, eventually finding its way. Just like families Grandma had said, just like us. Time would tell if this new beginning led somewhere worth going. But for today, for Easter, for the first meal shared without lies in almost a year, it was enough. More than enough. It was everything. The edited family portrait still hangs in my parents' living room beside the explanation they signed about its creation. Visitors ask, they explain, they wear their shame publicly as promised. But newer photos join it now. Unedited, honest, showing a family that learned the hard way that love means accepting no as readily as yes. Tyler's robot sits on my shelf, a reminder that complex problems yield to patient solutions. His innocence through our crisis kept one bridge unburned, one connection pure. Now 17, he interns at my hospital, interested in biomedical engineering. He jokes about building robots to solve family dynamics. I tell him some problems require human hearts, not artificial intelligence. Madison married last fall. A kind teacher who knew our history and loved her anyway. She asked me to be her maid of honor. I accepted, standing beside her as the sister I am, rather than the one she'd tried to erase. Her vows included promises about honoring boundaries. Mine, giving the toast, celebrated redemption, earned through accountability. Ryan sponsors others in recovery, now sharing our story as cautionary tale and hopeful ending equally. His marriage survived through Emma's fierce love and fiercer boundaries. Their children know Aunt Lindsay as present reality rather than edited absence. My parents volunteer at the hospital foundation, raising funds for the equipment their repayment purchased. Mom serves on committees with women she'd lost through lies, slowly rebuilding reputation through service. Dad mentors young entrepreneurs about ethical business practices and the danger of family enmeshment in financial decisions. The consultant who'd encouraged my erasure faces fraud charges from multiple families she'd manipulated. Her son Jeremy builds websites, now humbled by spectacular failure. We nod when passing, but don't speak. Some bridges need not be rebuilt. Dr. Chen still sees us monthly, guiding the delicate process of creating healthy patterns where dysfunction once thrived. She calls us her greatest challenge and most hopeful outcome, proof that even attempted obituaries can transform into new life. The article never published. Marcus Lynn keeps it updated, but unfiled understanding its power lies in potential rather than print. Someday, I might tell our story publicly, helping other families navigate the space between loyalty and boundaries. For now, living it well seems testimony enough. Forgiveness came slowly, trust slower still. But somewhere between their signatures on legal documents and Tyler's latest robot demonstration, I stopped seeing them as the family who'd tried to erase me and started seeing them as the family brave enough to face why. Love doesn't conquer all. That's Hallmark fantasy. But accountability conquers more than we imagine. Truth conquers even more. And choosing to rebuild after complete destruction, that conquers most of all. They cropped me out from the family portrait, so I handed them an envelope that changed everything, not through revenge or revelation, but through the radical act of requiring they see themselves clearly. In that clarity, they found the courage to change. In that change, we all found our way home. Different home, better home, but home nonetheless. What would you do if your family tried to erase you for setting a boundary? Have you ever had to choose between financial security and family demands? I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please consider sharing it with others who might be struggling with family boundaries or financial manipulation. Sometimes knowing you're not alone in these challenges makes all the difference. Don't forget to like this video if you found value in the story and subscribe to our channel for more narratives about complex family dynamics and the journey to healing. Your support helps us continue sharing these important stories. Thank you for listening to my journey. May your own family stories be filled with more understanding than erasure, more growth than grief, and may you always remember, you deserve to exist fully, boundaries and all. Until next time, keep choosing truth over comfortable lies. Your authentic self is worth more than any edited version others might prefer.